Okay, and we are live with another Day with Zenler. Remember, a Day with Zenler runs the last Friday of every month. Okay, and I am super excited because I've got Liz here. But just before Liz does her presentation, I just want to say a quick message to all those people in Florida, including our Alice, who has actually had a bit of damage from the storm that came in, Storm Ian. There was a bit of a storm surge, went in about 100 miles, and her house has been damaged a little bit, so she's had to move. So she's in a real turmoil at the moment. So our love goes out to Alice and all the people of Florida and wherever this horrible storm is hitting over there. I know it's sort of dying off, but I know it's going across, tracking across to Orlando and stuff. So guys, stay safe. Our love goes out to you. And Alice will be back. She has communicated with us. She is safe. So we're happy about that. So yeah. So let's go and let's do a day with Zenler. So first up, we got Liz. We all love Liz. Liz has just finished her boot camp that she ran, and now she's going to do a great presentation for us about planning for your first course. So I'm going to hand over straight to Liz. How are you today, Liz? You okay?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Yes, thank you for the awesome introduction. And yeah, sending all our love out to everybody in the wake of that storm.
Lovely. All right, I'll hand over to you. See you later.
Thank you so much. Bye. Okay, and welcome to today's Day with Zenler. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. If you're here live, amazing. If you're here on the replay, also amazing. Okay, so what I'm going to be sharing with you today is how to plan your first course, or of course, if you've already done your first course, just how to plan your next course. So it doesn't matter if you've done one before or not. Now, the very first thing that you get to consider when you're about to start planning anything is, how do you prefer to plan? So what's your favorite way of planning? Because there are so many different ways that we can take all of that information that we've got in our minds. And as course creators, I'm sure you have many, many, many different ideas going through your mind all the time. So how do you get that down onto a piece of paper? How do you begin to start with the course? So step one is to consider how you first love to plan. And it may be that you love to write things down, in which case, brilliant. So you could do, bullet points. You could do a list of things you want to be including. You could do a mind map. And I know I've mentioned them a few times before, but here's my mind map for today's presentation. And after doing the Mindset Bootcamp last week with my slides, I thought I'll go back to the trusty whiteboard today. So I've got my mind map, and if you like writing, that may be one that you want to do. And I've done a previous Day with Zenler, I've done a mind map section in there. So if that's something that stands out for you that you want to have a try of, then go and have a look at that Day with Zenler before. The other way that you might want to do it is you may want to just voice note it out. You may be like me and really like to speak, what's going on in your mind. Oftentimes that's how people process, especially if you're someone that comes up with a lot of different ideas. So in that case, what you could do is you could just voice note it out to yourself. And what you could actually do now with the new cloud recording is you could always set up a little Zoom. You could just go on camera yourself. You could speak into it. And then if you're saving it onto the cloud, I believe you can actually have the transcription as you download it as well. So rather than having to type everything out, you could do that. You could also voice note it onto your phone. And, there's various other transcription tools, but just a voice note on your phone, or indeed, testing it out with the Zoom. Yeah, amazing. Oh, fantastic. So the transcript actually is if you're doing it on the cloud or if you're recording locally. So you get it with both. So that is even more awesome. Thank you, David. The other way that you might choose to do it is you may be really artistic. I know there's many, many of you amazing people that are artistic in here. So you may actually choose to sort of doodle out the initial thoughts on your course. You can paint, any way that you can creatively get things down onto a piece of paper. You can creatively record your voice and get that, sent out into a transcript. So you've got some words there. Any of those ways are perfect. The other ways you may choose to get your initial ideas down. Again, I know we've got lots of dance teachers here. So you may actually, your beginning sort of plans, the way that you're getting your initial creative thoughts out, maybe through dancing them out. It may be through acting them out. It may be through singing them out, or it may be by making some models. So any way that gets those very initial thoughts of your course out of your head and into the real world. So it's making it a tangible thing. Any way that you can do that is a perfect place to begin. The next step that you're going to want to do, and this is a really important one, and especially if, just like me, you may well find that you work beautifully to a deadline. So you'll know that there is work to be done. You'll know what you're going to be doing, but you may well not start it until you're right up against that deadline. And that historically is absolutely me. And I find that every now and then that creeps back in again. So it's that last minute plan. My daughter calls me last minute mama. Because always at the last minute, I'm like, oh, and I'm just going to grab that too. So a good idea is to have a deadline or an end date or a goal date, however you want to term it yourself is absolutely perfect. But to have one that's actually a good while before you want to actually launch the course. So that you're giving yourself a deadline to work to is then going to support you to work to that deadline, especially if you're a last minute person, you know, like I historically have always been. And then it's going to enable you to actually get the course completed before you want it completed, so that you've got time to do any last minute checks. You've got time to do, you know, any little tests that you want to do with people before you release it out. And that's another point. So if you already have an audience of people, or you already have a group of people somewhere that you know would be perfect clients, perfect customers for your course, then ask them what they're looking for. But be really specific, because the more specific you can be when you're actually asking what people are looking for, when you're asking what changes it is that they're looking to make, that's going to enable you to have a focus for your course. The other thing that you can do when you're planning a course is to actually kind of pre-sale that course. So you can have your initial planning done. You can have your initial idea of what goal, you know, people are going to achieve. And this can very definitely be based on that information that you're looking at to begin with. So once you've actually asked people what they're looking for, you can then set up a really simple pre-sale course page. And as people register for it, or they might register an interest, you can then easily ask them extra questions, just to get more detail on what you're actually going to be infilling into the course. Because it can be very frustrating if you spend a lot of time creating a course that you believe people want and need, only to find that actually that's not necessarily what people want or need at all. So if you can do that asking right at the beginning, you're going to save yourself that time. And also if you're having that pre-sale course page, or just an interest, just to see, you know, what demand there is for the topic that you want to go in with, then again, as I said, you can then just invite people to answer some extra questions so that you get more detail into the detail of the course that you're going to create. Okay, so that's part of your research. And another way that you can be looking for that is to be looking in Facebook groups. Our Facebook group is amazing and, you know, and very active. So I'm sure, you know, if there's a few questions that you wanted to ask, that may well be a space to do it. And also you're going to be active in different areas. So obviously we're live in Facebook right now, which is why I mentioned Facebook first, but whatever social media areas that you are in, or even local areas, then be absolutely open to having those questions with people, find out what their main concerns are in the area that you're creating your next course. And then just find out how they would like to learn, because people are very, very different in how they take information in. So you have all the different senses, And people can be a mixture of each sense, or they may really, really prefer one. So this is another thing that you can easily be asking people. Or if you want to serve all those different senses as you're going through, you can just make sure that as you're creating the course, even that initial pre-course page or that initial questionnaire, you can do it in different ways. So the different ways you can have is you can have visual. So you can have visual pictures and things that people could just tick up against. You can have auditory. So you could have an audio that goes along for people to enjoy. Some people will prefer to listen to something rather than read something. You can also have going with kinesthetics. So that's through like feeling. So that's actually getting people to do things. So if, for example, I'm going to take the dance one because obviously that's very kinesthetic anyway. So if you were, inviting people into the course, you could be doing some form of questioning with some dance movements. So you could be saying, how do you prefer to learn? And then they could even send like a video and things back. And again, your language is going to be different. We then have olfactory. So that's like smelling. That's how you smell. So, and then you have gustatory, which is tasting. Now, obviously, your questionnaires, your marketing, your course may well not be working on these last two items, unless perhaps, it's something to do with perfume, aromatherapy, something to do with food. But what you can do is you can use language that is going to appeal to all of these different senses that people have. So you can use language when you're describing the course, when you're going through the transformation that your course is going to offer people. And it can be visual language. So it could be, and I see that you're sitting there and you're, seeing in your mind's eye the potential of your next course. And then you can move into the auditory, and you can hear in the back of your mind the sound of the people as they cheer for completing your course. And then the kinesthetic, and that brings up a beautiful warm feeling inside you. And it really, really gets you motivated to start to create that first course. And as you create that first course, moving into the olfactory, you get that sweet smell of success. And perhaps for you, that's the smell of champagne. And perhaps it's the taste of oysters. And you can really, really notice that beautiful taste of success and completion and pride as people are completing your first course. So you can go through each of these different senses in your planning, and then also as you're putting that course together or that pre-course page. Okay, so the next thing that you're going to be looking at is you're going to be considering, from the research that you've done, from the conversations that you've had, from perhaps the competitors that you've looked at what they're doing, at what's going really well for them, you're then going to notice what is the goal that your person or people or animal, the being, wants to achieve. What's that first goal? You're then going to have a look at where those people are right now. So what's their starting point? And from this space, from this starting point, you may find that it's different. It may be that not everybody is on the same starting space. And if that's the case, because obviously people are unique, are you going to be supporting different starting points within the one course? Or are you going to have maybe another course or maybe 3 courses? So you may have a beginner, an intermediate, and then like an expert. So for example, with Zenler, we've got the quick start guide, which is where you come in and you begin. And that's your base level. But we've then got the complete guide to Zenler, which is much more detail. And you then also have, if people are looking to do something extra with like the HTML, the CSS, things like that, you've then got the ninja tricks. So we've got those 3 different levels of course available for you. And you get to consider, are you going to have one course which is going to differentiate? So perhaps there's different tiers within that course for those different sections. Or are you going to have maybe 3 different ones? So you maybe have a basic one, which is going to be the introduction to whatever topic it is that you're looking to share with people to support this goal. Because people can be having a similar goal, but obviously coming in at a different level. And it may be that your base level is, is delivered perhaps in a group. And perhaps as it goes higher up, maybe there's a little bit more of your one-to-one time in there. Maybe they get a couple of live events in there. We've got the amazing live resources within Zenler. So perhaps that's a way to just add in that little extra bit of detail. Or maybe it's the base level people that are going to be requiring that extra bit of support. And then as they're moving up through the different tiers, maybe they're going to be able to do a little bit less with you and a little bit more by themselves. So as you can see, there are many different things to consider when you're looking at that starting point that your people have. And again, if you don't know, ask, and the perfect people to answer the question are the people that are in your audiences, the people that you're looking at and you're going, hey, I can support you. The people that you see in the Facebook groups and the different social media that you see face to face as you're out and about, the people that you look at and you go, I know that what I have will help you. Because after all, that's what we're here to do. We're here to support people and to make their journeys as easy and effortless as we can. So take a look around you and begin to notice what those points are. And when you do notice them, when you see those people and you think, oh my goodness, my course, yeah, this is the perfect thing. And that may be what's inspired you to do it in the first place, note it down. And again, note that down however you want. It can be drawn, it can be written, it can be sung, it can be a voice note, it can be a little mind map. You can journal it at the end of each day. I know within Manmeet's storytelling challenge, she was suggesting that at the end of each day, you just note down a few things from the day. There'll be great stories, but they're also great inspiration and great content for your courses because you're taking them from the people that you want to help. And that's the perfect place to bring it from, because we can have amazing ideas, but if we're putting out something that isn't what people are looking for right in that moment, or it isn't reaching the people at the starting point that we want to, we get to start to notice that and to evaluate it. So keep asking the questions. And as we say in Zenler, all questions are good questions. So trust yourself. If a question pops up, then ask it, absolutely. And what I'll do at the end of the presentation, then I will take a look and see if you've got any questions. And also I'll be monitoring the chat, so I'll check back in a bit later and over the weekend and just see if any extra questions pop up. Okay, so we've got the starting point and people may be on the same starting point, they may be different. And what you're next going to do is you're going to map out a customer journey. So you're going to think, okay, this is where my people are right now. And again, you may have different starting points for the journey. So you may have, those different levels. It depends on where people are right now. And then what you're going to be plotting is from the starting point to that goal, to that transformation that you are offering with your course. How are people going to be getting there? So you've got their starting point here. You've got their goal up here, which is how they're going to be when they've completed your awesome, awesome course. And then you get to start plotting this journey. And what you'll notice is that there's going to be a few key points of information, of knowledge, of expertise, of moves, that you're going to be imparting to these people so that they can go from where they are now to where they want to be. And as you notice each of those little points, and again, you can do this however you want. You can draw it out, you can speak out, whatever your favorite way to plan is, go with that, because whatever flows easily for you is going to make this process so much easier. It's going to make it so much more flowing when you're working with your natural way of being, with your natural way of working. So begin to map that out. And what you're then going to end up with is a list or a picture or an audio of the different steps that you want people to take. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to reach your goal. And then what you get to do with each of these different steps is you get to consider how best to impart that learning for people. What's the easiest way, the simplest way for you to get those people to each of these steps? And whilst you're considering those steps, it's a good place to begin to notice if there's a natural order for this progression. So is there perhaps a logical order? So for example, if it were a cake baking course, you're going to want people to be able to get the ingredients first, to have the correct, bakeware, cookware first, and they're going to need those steps to be completed before they're obviously baking the cake. And it may well be the same with the course that you're creating. And it's just noticing what's the very first thing that has to be done. And you just move along then in that logical order. Or it may be, for example, like the mindset bootcamp that I just did last week, that actually it doesn't really matter at what point along those 5 days people first came in. So people could begin at day 5 if they wanted, and they could work backwards. That would still be fine. It would still work. So with some courses, that can be the same. It may be that it's fine, that people can dip in and out of the different modules in whatever order they choose. But it may also be true that there's a progression throughout the course, so that come the end of it, you've built that level of whatever it is that your course is about up for them, so that they are then at their end goal. And again, as you're looking at each of these different steps, bear in mind how different people learn, how different people absorb information. So it's again thinking over those 5 senses. It's also thinking about how different people work inside. So some people will love to know how things are working. They love to know the mechanics behind it. They may be really big researchers. You then have other people that want to know why. Why is this important to them? I mean, to be honest, we all want to know that, don't we? We all want to know, what's the purpose of me taking this course? So that the why is very much related to the goal. The how is going to be the mechanics of the course. There's going to be the steps. They're also going to want to know where. So how is it going to be imparted to them? Is there going to be in-person stuff? Is it mainly on Zoom? Is it stuff that they're going to get to be doing by themselves? Is it stuff that they're going to get to be doing in a group? Is there going to be some one-to-one stuff in there as well? And then you have the what as well, which is a little bit more specific with the how. So the how is often how it's actually being imparted, the different activity sort of styles you're going to be including. And then the what is the specifics. That's going to be the detail of the course in there. And then obviously the when. So is it going to be as people choose to do it? So is it like an on-demand, like our quick start guide, like our complete guide, so people can just dip in and out when they want to? Or is it going to be specific times? Is it a certain time every week that you're going to be looking at doing a live? Is a new lesson going to come out once a week? Is it going to come out once a month? So these are then some of the things that you're going to get to bear in mind as you're looking at those different steps, because you've got your starting point that we know because we've researched it, we've asked people, we've then got the goal. Again, we've researched, we've asked people, we know what our people are looking for. We've got our steps in between, which are those bits of knowledge that people are going to need to get from where they are up to their goal. And then we're looking at within each of these steps, just noticing each of these items. How are we going to be getting them through that step? Why are we getting them through that step? You know, is that step part of a logical rise, a logical journey from where they are to the goal? Or is it something that can be gone, you know, in any order that they choose? So we're just building up a basic level of understanding as we go throughout the whole area. Where's it going to be? What specifically is it going to be? And again, it's really good to get specific. So people work well with specific detail because it's what our minds prefer. And then it's when. So when is it going to be that each of these steps are going to be completed, and exactly how are they going to be completed? Okay. So that's helping you go into detail with those steps. And then, because the steps is obviously the big part of the course, because this is where your lessons are going to be. This is where your lives are going to be. This is your curriculum, you know, inside your Zenler site. So from there, you're going to be thinking, how are you going to evaluate when that step is completed? So not only do we get to work out exactly what we want to put in each step, and again, ask, because people, first of all, people love to speak about themselves, and your course is supporting them. Or it could be an animal course. So you could be supporting animals, but in that case, you're obviously, usually, unless you're an animal communicator, you're going to be speaking to the people who are the guardians of those animals. So you're looking at exactly what they want to be achieving. And then often as course creators, we know that what people want to achieve and what people are looking for is usually underpinned by some extra information, some extra learning, some extra understanding that we know they need. They don't know that they need it yet because they're not aware of it. And we only know what we know. So for example, I'll take a shouting, barking dog, for example. As a guardian, you may just want the dog to stop. You don't want to hear the dog barking, you know, every 5 minutes, and you just want the peace. Underneath that, there may well be, you know, behavior issues, stress issues for the dog. But as a guardian, you just want the dog to stop. You want to be able to sleep again. You want to be able to have people over to the house. You want to be able to do your live Zoom calls without being interrupted by the barking dog. So it's about taking the steps that we know are needed to take people from the start to the goal, but it's turning it in a way for people so that they know they need it. So the course, the pre-sale course thing, the pre-sale course page, or any promotion that you look to do is going to be really focusing on the goal. That as you're creating that first course, that plan for your first course, you're going to be looking at those hidden steps, secret steps, they may well be, that are going to be taking those people through that journey. And it's going through that customer journey. So if you ever, as you're looking at the detail of the steps, and I'm just going to go with the 5 because that's what I had been going with so far. And as you're looking into the detail of each of the steps, it's making it in a way that as many people as possible are going to be able to take on the information. They're going to be able to run with that information. And obviously, if there is a course that you are looking at planning right now, then hopefully you've been going along with the steps. You've been thinking of the questions as we go. And if not, this is a perfect place to begin, because you get to consider, and you may note down, or you may voice note or speak it out loud, or however you choose to do it, draw it, doodle it. And you could take a moment now to do that, to notice what those what those steps are going to be for you. So for example, I'll run through an example just in case there isn't a course that you're working on right now. And if there is, then please, just start filling out what your steps are yourself. Okay, so I'll put myself onto quiet for a moment. I'll just note some things down. So if you do have a course that you're working on right now, take this moment now to just be noting down what those steps are on the customer journey to get them from where they are right now through to what you want them to achieve, that transformation, that goal at the end. And in the meantime, I will note some things down here for you. Awesome.
Hi, Liz. Can I just join in?
Yeah, of course you can.
Yeah, I want to give an example of this because it's really valid, right? I'll give you an example of what we're doing with Zenler. So it's perfect, right? Okay, so we got a lot of feedback from you guys on the community telling us about because we do so many videos, we do boot camps, we do challenges, but we were missing really what you guys were asking us for, some of you, and that was articles. So you wanted to read articles and you also wanted videos to be shorter. Because what was happening and what still is happening is support are sending people to long videos that we've done, like 2-hour videos. And they're like, I only need a little bit of information and I have to watch 2 hours of videos. So we were shaped to our steps, our actions by what you guys have told us. So now we're working on all these support articles that are full articles. And at the end of it, we have a short little video that support can still send people to directly to the article. If you love, and this is another thing Liz was saying, if you love to watch a video, it's there. If you love to read an article, it's there. So we've got a mixture of medias for you guys to look at. So that is exactly what Liz is saying there for those steps. So if you want to write some examples down there, tag Liz in, because if it finishes, then she can go back and look at them afterwards. But I thought that was a classic one to sort of interject into.
Yeah, that was brilliant. Thank you. And it shows how awesome we are as well. We are asking, we are listening.
We try.
Thank you. Yeah, and obviously, that's absolutely what we're here to do, to support. So if you do have any steps that you want to put down and share, then absolutely drop them in and I can take a look at them. Okay. Okay, amazing. And obviously, if you didn't complete your steps then, which is absolutely fine because that was not long, if you're noticing, are amazing. So obviously, no worries at all. If you didn't complete your steps just then, that's absolutely fine. This is just an introduction to it. So take time to do this. And as we say at Zenler all the time, done is better than not done. So things do not have to be perfect when you're going through these planning steps. And actually, they don't even get to be perfect when you've got the course up and running, because things are always developing. So I know at the end of each of our challenges and our boot camps, we're always open for feedback. Is there something we can do better? As David was just mentioning, then we've taken the feedback from you. We've said, okay, so this is what you're looking for. And then we're changing, we're shifting, we're developing, we're growing, and we're transforming all the time to match what you guys are looking for. And you get to be doing the same with your audience, because the more that you're asking, the more that you're noticing, and then the more that you're reacting, the better a communication, the better a relationship you're building with people. And it's exactly the same when you're planning your first course, when you're running your first course, when you're running your 10th, your 100th course, is the better communication and connection that you have with your customers, with your potential customers, the better your support is going to be for them, because you're going to know what they want because they've told you. And then you know, as the expert, how to actually give them what they want, along with whatever the extra things are that they actually need underneath, that you know, because you're expert in whatever your course is about. You're the expert. So you know what people actually need to be able to achieve the goals. And sometimes they don't realize that, because that's why they don't know. And that's why they're coming to you as the expert. So I've just noted down just a really quick example of some steps, just thinking about that shouty barky dog, which is what came to mind in the moment for me. And that's another thing, is to begin to build up that trust in yourself so that you can go with what comes into your mind in the moment. Because I think very often we second guess ourselves. And as you may have found, perhaps in like a pub quiz or something like that, the first answer that comes to your mind is obvious, is often the best one. And it's the same when you're going through your plans. Like, trust yourself, ask people, what they're looking for. Definitely do your plans around what the market is actually looking for, but trust yourself in what comes to mind as a good way to impart that information. So always trust yourself. And again, I know that's something to be building up on. Anyways, so looking at the steps to take people from the shouty barky dog to a nice calm household and a nice calm happy dog. So, and you notice I put in happy dog. People may not necessarily be thinking that the dog isn't happy. So they may well not have that as an initial goal, but it's something that, throughout the course that you're doing, that they may well learn that. So it's an awareness of the dog, awareness of how the dog is feeling. Step 1. Step 2, give them a quick win to increase the calm straight away. So you can put some kind of maintenance stuff in there so that you can quiet down the dog quickly for them. So you're giving them a nice quick win so that they know that the process is going to be working for them. They know you're an expert, they know you know your stuff. Then move them into a new strategy. So whatever the technique is that you're going to be using, or techniques to support them to achieve that goal. They then get to start bedding in that new behavior for themselves and for the dog. So again, with your course, it'll be they start to actually put into place what you've imparted, and they begin to start running with it. At this point, they're going to begin to notice that transformation. So they're now moving beautifully up towards that end goal area. So you've done that initial understanding at the beginning. You've started to get them into a bit of a quick win. A quick win is beautiful in a course, even in a challenge or a boot camp, to be honest, because it shows people that they can achieve whatever that change is. And they're beginning to be aware that they're taking one of those first steps up there. Because whilst I do that initial line like this, like your line of best fit from school, these are going to be how these little changes go. So you're going to make the change, you're going to practice it, and then you're going to get the results. So they're going to go a bit more like steps. And each little step that you're taking people up, they're going to be building up that momentum. They're going to be building up that trust in yourself as well. So they're going to know you're the expert. They're going to be seeing that what you're doing is helping them, is supporting them. And this is going to encourage them to keep going with the course. I know that's something that people have been mentioning recently. They've been saying, well, how do we get people to actually complete the course? Because people will sign up and then you'll see a drop off, and people aren't actually necessarily going through and completing. So what can we do to support them to do that? These little quick wins within your steps are a really good way to encourage people to move on to the next part of the course, because they get that, they get that natural oxytocin because they've achieved something. They're noticing that change. They're noticing that beginnings of that transformation that you've promised them, and that can help propel them onto that next step. but also know that we are people and it is natural. It's how people work. Sometimes we're very, very excited and we jump into something and then the excitement fades away because other things get in the way. So where that's the case, a lovely thing to put into the plan of your first course is how are you going to be prompting people to come back and to keep going? So these are extra things to begin to consider as you're planning it, because it's the same as with the quick start guide when you're setting up your Zenler site to begin with. If you've got this kind of background information there when you begin, it's going to make it so much easier when you come to actually put it all together. And the same with the steps. Just as a quick top tip off the side, is that when you're doing them, it's a great idea to have a copy of any like notes like this. And I know if you're not a big one for writing out, if you've done your transcription, you can copy and paste that in. If you've doodled it, you know, you can work with the pictures. But it's a good idea to have them somewhere online, you know, in like a little word pad, something like that without the formatting. And then as you move along into the actual course creation, if you've got everything planned out there, so if you've got your steps, you know, like this on the document, it's going to make it really easy when you come to actually populate your course, because you're going to have your workings, your planning on the computer, you know, within that kind of text document already. And I know that this is something that the team really suggests you do. And I've definitely seen it in a lot of David's videos, is like have all this stuff there. And then as you go through, first of all, it's a great checklist for yourself because you can look through and go, yep, I've done, you know, the work for that step. Yeah, I've done the work for that step. But it also just makes it quicker when you come to be actually piecing the course together. Okay, so we've got each of our steps here. We're considering how we're going to motivate the person to go and take the next step. And that moves us back to how we're going to be sharing that information. And that's something that David just touched on with us before, because we have videos, we have audios, we have lives, we have checklists. Within your course area, you can do quizzes. You also have the community feature. So if you want people to be interacting as a group, then, you know, draw on the resources that Zenler has given you, because there's so many amazing ones. Ah, yes, awesome. Thank you, David. And assignments. Yes, and especially if you're doing things, you know, which are quite in-depth, which are quite detailed, or even smaller ones, assignments are really amazing. And the other thing to consider is that whilst you're creating all of these different types of resources for people, if you're getting them to do homework, they can also be sharing things with you as well. So you can definitely have, you know, homework shared with you, which is like videos, audios, lives, you know, things like that. When you're in the live, you can be getting people to show you things. You can be doing, you know, like a live quiz. There are so many different ways that you can work through it. And it's just remembering how the people, all different people work in those different ways. So you've got all your 5 senses again. So it's making sure that for each of those steps, you're covering the steps that you feel are appropriate for the people that you're working with in the different senses. And again, ask people. So you could even have like a small quiz near the beginning of the course, or on the pre-sale area, or just where you're doing your research. And you're just asking people, how do you prefer to learn this? Because you may find that your audience share a similar way of learning. So especially if it's an openly creative, you know, area that you're working in, if it's dance, if it's singing, if it's cooking, if it's painting, if it's anything that's outwardly creative, you might find that they favor certain types of learning, or you may find that there still is a mixture. And it's up to you to either consider it yourself and then build in the different types of support, or just ask. Because if you find that everyone in, in that course is preferring video, then give them the video. You don't then need to do the audios and the checklists if that's not going to support them. So do be in that constant communication with people to find out what's going to serve them the best. And if you have a mixture, then absolutely you get to pick, and you get to decide when you're looking at that customer journey, what is best and easiest route for them to get from the start up to that beautiful goal, which is what your course is going to be taking them to. So many different areas that you can consider on how you're going to be sharing things, and whatever. Oh, images. Yeah, that's really important. And also it may be like live activities. So again, many people learn well by doing whatever it is. And that's actually a big reason behind with the Mindset Bootcamp that I just did, that I did 3 activities each day. And it was getting people to do something, because very often we remember things better when we've gone through some form of an action. And for some of us, we prefer to do that in a group area. And for others, we prefer to do it just by ourselves. And that's where the replays of things are really, really good. So replays are an excellent thing to have if you've got lives and things, especially if you're working with people, perhaps doing some mindset support. It may well be that initially they're quite overwhelmed and they don't, they have that low confidence. They don't want to be live on the camera. But as they're moving through the course, if you keep giving them opportunities, then perhaps by the end, they will be happier to do so. And then, so I'm just going to put activities. Because again, for some people, as I said, as you're actually physically doing something that can support them to remember, to recall, to really take on board that information. And it's going back to that point, I think I probably share this in most of the videos, is that everybody takes on that information in those different ways. And we're being bombarded with information in through all of our 5 senses at any moment. And we can only absorb like about 5 to 7 pieces of data in each kind of millisecond. So do not be discouraged if people are not getting everything first time. You absolutely get to keep going over the key points, because it may be that it's only on the 10th time somebody's actually going to absorb that information. And again, that's something that I've noticed like come up recently, is people say, well, does it matter if I repeat myself on things? How do I make sure my content is always completely new and different? Do you know what? You don't need to, because people will absorb different things at different times. So yes, don't put the same thing out, because that's not going to work well for you. It's not going to work well for SEO and things. But if it's the same point, you're just covering it in a different way, keep going, because it's going to reach different people at different times, and different people are going to take it in the different formats. They're going to take it in through the different senses better. And it's the same when you're reaching out to a lead. Sometimes it's like the 8th, it's the 10th, it's the 30th, it's the 100th time that they see your message that they go, oh yeah, I want to do that. So keep going with it, be persistent, and keep going with your resilience, because I know that each and every one of you has got amazing expertise that you can share and support other people with. And keep asking. I think my biggest takeaway from the planning your course is to keep asking that audience, keep asking that potential audience. Go and borrow someone else's audience. There are many different platforms that you can go into across all the different social medias, and pick one, but go do your research, go have a look at people, go see what's working for other people, look at competitors, see what's working well for them. The Google stuff, is really good for that, and trust yourself. So just to recap, as I finish off, your biggest step is looking at where people are right now. What is their starting point? And then what's that goal that you're taking them to? And how are you going to take them across that customer journey as easily and effortlessly as possible? And what are the quick wins you can give them as you go along to help them keep going and actually complete your course? Okay. And again, as I said, any questions that you put in, I will come back and I will have a look at them and answer them. It'll probably be over the weekend now, as I get to go pick up my daughter from England. So I'll pop them in there and I will come back and I will support you as best I can. Thank you so much, David.
Hi, Liz. That was really good. That was fabulous. There's a few things interesting there. I love the fact that quick wins. I mean, the thing about having a quick win is that you get people on the first step, and that is always the hardest thing. If you've got people getting a result, they will be committed to going through deeper learning processes with you because they've got that quick win. So just like Liz said, drop in those little quick wins every now and again just to keep people moving. And also, like you were saying, Liz, is that engagement with people, like things like assignments, setting people goals to do. And also, because it's very easy just to do a course and just say, well, you do this, you do that, you do this. But if you're not setting any goals, I mean, maybe a lot of people won't do it, but a lot of people will do it and they'll be motivated to carry on. And usually this is what happens. A lot of people start alive. If you're doing a live workshop, in my experience, this has happened with Zenler. A lot of people start. So I might get 200 people in a live. And then when we're down to the end, there's probably about 40. And all of those 40 have submitted stuff back. They are the people that have done these. So they've been motivated by doing the tasks. The rest have dropped off, might watch the replays, and it's just slowing their process down. It's going to take them longer to learn because they haven't been right the way through it. And they haven't had the most important thing that you can get when people are doing lives, which is you get to ask your questions. On a replay, you don't. You might put it into a community, but while it's active and going on, then we can answer your questions live and you can answer your students' questions live and you can get the feedback that Liz was talking about, which is again vital. And I want to also include another bit that Liz, you were talking about, which was, where your audience is. So if you're creating a course, what stage is your audience at? And how do you do a course? So if I've got someone, I do lots of technical software. So if I've got like ZBrush, for instance, or Photoshop, am I going to target advanced users or am I going to try and target intermediate? Well, my best option for making money is to have everybody. So how can I do that? So what I might do is I might do a basic beginner's course, and I've done this stuff before, it works, trust me, a beginner's course, 2 hours, 3 hours long, give it out free of charge. So that works as a lead magnet, but it also means that you can then do a course for beginners, intermediate and advanced users because they've already done the free course. So when people come into the advanced course, you say, have you taken the beginner's course? Absolutely free. Just take that first and then you'll be able to pick up. This way I'm opening my audience to everybody and making my market as big as possible. Obviously, sometimes you might want to go for small niches if it's a specific software package, but these are all things that Liz is mentioning there. That's exactly what you were saying, like, where is your, what can you do? So how can I make my life easier? Now, by creating a basics course in something, it means that I'll tell you what I was doing. I was creating lots of courses. And at the beginning of every course, I was doing a beginner's section so I could market beginners, intermediates, and advanced users. So I was having to do that beginner's link every time I did a course. Now I just send people to one course. Have you done that? If you've done that, you can do this. I'm saving myself a ton of time. I'm creating a lead magnet, a video series lead magnet for myself. And I'm also giving people value for money because it's like, oh, wow, he sent me to this free course. So I can learn the basics for free and then I can take that. So there's getting that kind of, you get that, people get that confidence from you that you're giving them something for free. People love that. And also they invest in you more then, because they know that you're a nice person and you're doing this sort of stuff. Of course, I'm generating money from it, but you're always doing it because you love what you do. Hopefully that's all of your reasons for running an online school as well, because it will show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And I think it's, it's another way, because the other way to do is like the free webinar, the free live class, and to have that again, as the lead magnet, and even have that, put into Evergreen as a course, which then becomes your lead magnet as well. So I think it's awesome. And we've got so many resources within Zenler to do it in a different way that's going to suit, each of our amazing course creators.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. It's another thing that we talk about quite a lot, and that's the reuse of content. So it's like, I can run Sunday workshops, and I have, and we could charge for all of our tutorials on our tutorial site. We don't, but we could easily. It's like if we've got 30 plus Sunday live workshops at 2 hours each, I could charge a lot of money for that, all specializing in certain things. We give it to you for free, but they were recorded with people that would have paid for it, a premium, and then I would have done it as an evergreen course to cut those people out, just done it as a course. So reusing that content, I think that's a massive one as well, the reuse of content. That's big as well, but that planning stage. But I wanted to ask you, Liz, the other thing is what can be, right, so someone comes into Zenler, they're like, oh my God, there's so much to learn with Zenler. We know how intuitive the platform is, but what I say to you, Liz, is actually creating your courses and your sites inside Zenler. That is the easiest part. People get overwhelmed. They go, oh, it's a new platform. All they're thinking about is how do I build it all in Zenler? But what they should be thinking about is what Liz just talked about, planning it all. Because if you do what Liz said and you plan it all out and you've got all your transcripts and your medias and they're all in a folder, actually putting into Zenler is the quick bit. People get it the other way around. Yeah. And it's like, no.
Yeah. And I know, many people kind of start with the end. They're starting with the sales page, which you can do because you can pre-sell and then question people and, build it that way. But oftentimes people are kind of starting with the end point, and you want to start at the beginning, work out what are those underlying points, and it's going to make it so much quicker. Same as the quick start guide, it's set out so logically to take you through and just get you started well. And of course we have, the evergreen sort of first course challenge stuff as well that people can go in and run through. So lots of resources, but start simple. Where are your people? Where are they going? What are you going to do to get them there? Just start that simple. The rest will come in time.
Keep it simple. That's the one thing as well. We see it every day. People that's the first time they're creating their courses, and they overcomplicate it. Honestly, I've got courses, it's got video and a bit of text. That's it. That's all that's in them. I just whack the videos out, put the course out, it's done. People love it. I hook up a community to it so we can have a chat, and I might run some lives just to help them, but that's it. I mean, I'm not doing PowerPoints presentation. I'm not putting surveys, quizzes in there. I'm not putting assignments in there, nothing. And it works. And if I got a lot of feedback, and this is again what Liz was talking about, people saying, oh, I want to submit my work to you, I want to do this, then of course I just add an assignment in. There you go, done it. Or I did discussions under the videos if they wanted it. I can just add these things based on what the people want. And that's the way to kind of work it. So it's like you can build things as you move. I mean, you're moving forward. It's like everything we do, we try and get better and better and better. And I think that's kind of what Liz was talking about as well. So don't get overwhelmed. I know Liz has talked like an hour now, and it seems like a lot, but she's saying there, look, start, goal.
Yeah, it does. It gets to be that simple. It really does. And if you're starting to overcomplicate yourself, come into a Zen zone and we'll put you right.
Fantastic. Thank you, Liz. I know Liz has got to race off because she's going to pick her daughter up from England. So she's leaving Wales into England. So good luck with that.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you, Liz.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so really, really nice one there. And next we have our lead product educator. We got Kevin in. So Kevin's doing a very special one today. And this is all about understanding social media marketing. So this is a really big one, and Kevin always explains it really well. So he'll explain this really big subject in an hour when it should take a day. So, as he always does. Welcome, Kevin. Good to see you.
Hi, David. How's it going? You all right?
All good. All good.
Good. Yeah, we've got an interesting topic today. It's going to be a bit of facts and figures, but hopefully by the end of it, people will have more of an understanding of where they want to put their energy, and also get the better results. So that's the goal for the hour. It might not take an hour. I don't know. It might take three. No, it won't take 3 hours. But I don't know. We'll see how it goes along. And obviously, if people are watching and they've got questions, then type them into the chat, and we'll get through them as we go.
Brilliant. That's great. All right, I'll hand over to you, Kevin. I'm going to be watching this one. If you need me to pop up, give any feedback, just holler me name and I'll pop up for you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So good morning, Zenler users. So my name's Kevin. I'm lead product educator for New Zenler. And on a day with Zenler this month, I thought it would be quite an interesting idea to start to look at and understand a little bit more on the marketing via social media side of what we do as course creators, because we're very good as course creators of understanding our business, what we want to teach, creating our courses. We're in there working away, and then we get to the point of launch or pre-launch of our course, and we're like, how do we market this thing? How do we actually get people, if we don't have an audience already, to come into what we do? Now, we've talked about lead funnels and all of that, and we're not going to get into that today. What we're going to get into is about mastering a social media platform, determining which one it is that you want to master based on what you're looking for and how you're going to do that. And I'm going to bombard you a little bit with facts and figures, because it is important that we understand the usage of the platforms that we're looking to go on to, rather than just going in a little bit blind and going, well, you know what, I like doing videos, so I'm going to go into YouTube because that's what I like. But YouTube might not be the most appropriate place for you to use to market what you do. So I've got a little presentation to go through, but what I want you to really start with and to really understand, and this goes back to everything that we do from a marketing perspective, is when we build our course, when we build our sales page, when we start to look at the marketing aspects of what we're going to achieve, we always have to go back to the client avatar. We have to understand who that one client is that we want in. Now, the argument always comes up, well, I serve everybody. I have lots of different people. I have lots of different demographics that I work with. And I absolutely agree that's the case. However, to have effective marketing, you need to focus on one at a time. That doesn't mean that you never target the others. It just means for the moment, you're going to focus on one particular. Now, if you look at what New Zenler's doing, let's use them as an example. We're focusing on course creators that want to use a live element within their platform. So we're heavily focusing a lot of what we're doing on the live side of New Zenler and course creators that want a live aspect, whether that's live webinar, live class, or streaming live. Although there's different elements that we have in the platform, that's part of the audience that we're targeting right now. We're doing everything. We're doing it in office hours. We're putting together our summit, which is part of the live element. And that's what we're focusing on. So you need to do the same with what you're doing. You need to identify who your client is for this particular campaign. Let's call it a campaign because it's a term that's used frequently and you'll see it everywhere. And you need to decide how you're going to go off, find those people, talk their language on the right platform, in the right way, with the right amount of updates, which is important, and really nail it. Because if you don't get this bit right, then everything you do following it is pretty much a waste of time, and it leads you to disappointment and frustration, and you don't really know why it's not working. Now, what I will tell you is based on current information that all of the marketers, the good marketers know about, is we know engagement is down. So when you go onto Facebook and you put an update on maybe your page or something like that, 3-4 years ago, you'd get lots of people going like and comment and really interacting with it. Now it's dropped and dropped and dropped and dropped, and it's very, very difficult to get a lot of engagement on what you do on a normal update on social media. Now, this is a growing trend, the lack of engagement, and the reason being is because everybody pretty much gets chased around the internet with adverts nowadays. So you go on and you know, I had it the other day. I went onto a LinkedIn poll. I clicked, I chose one of the options, and the next thing I know, I've got an email come in going, "You clicked this on my poll, blah 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 blah," and all of that. And I'm like, "Oh, hang on a minute." And then I've got an advert pop up on Facebook about what the topic was that I clicked on LinkedIn. So the retargeting and all of that stuff does become a bit frustrating for people. So people are less likely to engage unless there's a compelling enough reason. And this comes down to your relationship with your audience. So point one is sort your client avatar out. Now, I'm not going to teach you how to do that today. We've done trainings on this. There's stuff in the tutorial site if you want to go off and learn it. And potentially, I'll do an actual bootcamp on that, which will go through in massive detail for you exactly how to do it properly. Because once you've done one, you can create multiples. I have them on my office wall. As in, right, I'm writing a blog post, who am I writing it to today, as an example, and I'll pick one of the ones that I've got on my wall and go, right, that's who the post is for, and I'm going to do a series towards this person this for the next month, and it really keeps it focused. So we're not going to get into that today. What we are going to get into is starting to look at the platforms, the type of people that are hanging about on these platforms, what their attention span's like, and all of that. And I've put together data that we're going to share in a second that's going to really get you thinking about it. Now, so the first thing is client avatar. Go and sort that out. The second thing is understanding your platform. We're going to look at that in a moment. So are you ready to start looking at this? Let me just get my Facebook page up. If you've got questions and you are here and you're still with me, then by all means add them into the Facebook chat, and I will do my best to answer it. Now, there is a caveat on all of these numbers that I'm going to give to you. Now, obviously, data is gathered and collated by multiple sources, and I've gathered the average, the mean of the data that's available right now. This isn't the gospel of you do this, you will gain success, because you do need engaging content, you do need the right audience, you do need other variables involved with it. However, what this does do is it gives you the power of information. And that's quite important, that you know that if you are on a certain platform, there is an expectation that if you put this out, it may only last X amount of time within their feeds. It may be that people are flighty on those platforms, as in they're there 1 minute and gone the next. Or it might mean that actually the depth and quality of the update needs to be much bigger because of the amount of times that you need to actually contribute onto that platform. So it gives you that guide, which you can then actually create a decent strategy, which will help you move forward. Now, my suggestion would be that you pick one to start with and go off and really, really put all of your social media marketing efforts into the one. Because when you do that, so if you've got your course and all of that, and you go, right, okay, I want to focus on, for example, Twitter, because that's where I believe my people to be. You'll work your strategy out for that. You'll go off and you'll dominate it on Twitter. So when people are searching for what you do on there as a course, you're going to be found everywhere people look. They're going to see you talking about this thing to that particular audience. That's our goal. That's our objective. Rather than what normally happens is we put an update out every now and again because we feel like it. We might forget for a month and then go back, do half a dozen in a day, and then forget it for another 3 weeks, and then go back. And we're quite erratic. And I see this all of the time. What we want to do is we want to make sure we understand the platform, understand how frequently we should be putting stuff onto that platform, understand the attention span of people within that platform and who they are. Make sure that ties up with our ideal client, that it's the right person on the right platform, and then put our strategy together for longevity within it. So what I mean by that is you're going to create, let's say, a 6 to 12 month program where you go, actually, this is going to be my thing. I'm going to put 12 months of content together. You don't have to do it all in a day, of course, but you can start the process of it. And you might say, after watching this, right, we're heading into October. By the end of October, I'm going to have everything lined up. I'm going to have my first 2 months worth of content ready. And November is the 1st of November will be the day I start to dominate that platform for what I do. That would be a sensible way of approaching this. If you think you're going to do it and start it tomorrow, you're probably setting yourself up for frustration, and therefore you'll become erratic again because life will take over as it does, and you're not going to get where you need to be. So let's get into this. Let me just make sure I've got my right thing up. Okay, I'll take that off because if I leave that like that, I'm going to go onto the wrong window. So share. Let me know that you can see this okay.
All good, Kevin.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, so understanding social media marketing. Now, we are going to get straight into the facts and figures of the demographics of the people as we know of right now. And as I say, this is a mean of different sources that we've gathered to get this data together. But it will give you an idea of when you know what your service is, who your courses are aimed at, then you'll understand by this pretty much where you need to put your attention. So all of the information I've given you is going to be laid out in a very similar way to this. So it gives us the amount of users per month that are on this particular platform, how long they spend per day on average on the platform, so 35 minutes per day. And I'm sure you're all sitting there going, oh, I spend far more time. It is an average. We split it down by platform that they use. So are they using a desktop or are they using some form of mobile device? So over here you can see it's not a compelling everything on mobile, but there's more people on mobile than there is on desktop, which would indicate to me when, for example, you set up your Facebook page header, double check, because Facebook is an absolute pain for this, that when you go on your mobile, your header looks good. Because often we'll do it for desktop, which looks great on a desktop. When you go onto a mobile, it cuts all the important bits off and it looks a bit rubbish. So make sure that it's particularly optimized for mobile rather than desktop. Gender, slightly female heavy on this, very, very slightly, but so and so. This thing gives us the breakdown of ages and estimated income based on people, the tracking stuff that's available on the platforms. So this might be adverts that people are clicking on, things that they're going through, comments that they're making, stuff and pages that they're looking at, because let's face it, everybody tracks everything. So this gives us an idea based on their history of what they do in their accounts, roughly what they are seen to be making as an income per annum, and also of their age based on what they put into their account. Now, of course, this isn't 100%, like I've said, but it is a reasonable guideline to understand that, you know, if you're looking to approach a slightly older audience, and you're not looking for the 18-year-olds and all of that, there's actually quite a few people on here that are a little bit older. There's people that have quite a good income stream coming in via Facebook. So it gives us a good look at it. Now, Instagram, and you can see instantly the difference. So Facebook here, we've got a reasonably good average of people. I'd probably say that's probably in the higher 20s rather than the lower teens. But this is the data that we've got. On here, you can see massive shift over towards the under 30s on here. You can also see a massive shift on a lower income. Maybe that's age related. Bigger shift over to female on Instagram as well, which is quite interesting. And a big shift up onto mobile, which isn't surprising. Yes, I know you can see Instagram on a desktop now. However, it is still very, very mobile dominant. Very few 65. So, for example, you had a business that was looking at people that were going into retirement. You was a retirement coach or financial planner. Instagram is probably a waste of time for you, unless you want to hit them at this age. But even then, it's very, very small. So that's not going to benefit your business. If you were looking for youngsters, a friend of mine's got a valeting and tinting business. So he does all the tinting on the windows, he refurbishes alloy wheels and all of that stuff. So he's massive on here. He earns a lot of money off of Instagram. He only does Instagram. He's understood his market. He puts his flashy cars up. The under 30s are absolutely lapping it up. He puts an Instagram ad out. He makes a fortune off of it because that's his audience, the younger people that want the flash cars, that really invest time and money into doing it. So for him, this is huge. Understanding that audience. He also understands that their price bracket as well. That's not to say there isn't an 18-year-old that's earning this. It's just to say this is the average of the data that's available. 800 million monthly users, massive amount of people, but they're only on there 15 minutes a day. So when you put something out on there, you need to really make sure that it's noticeable. Pinterest, big shift over to female heavy. We know this. The last figures I got was 70% of users on Pinterest were female. And it's, again, quite a big heavy side onto mobile nowadays. So it's not so much split on there. So we need to make sure our images that go onto Pinterest are split that way. But you can see that the finances are starting to creep up. The ages are starting to creep up over here. 431 million monthly users, and they're spending around about 15 minutes a day on there. I'd say that's probably a little bit more than 15 minutes a day, based on what I've seen and the interactions I've had with people. But people that go onto Pinterest are planners. They do like to plan stuff. They like to research and plan. So people that are moving home, holidays, that type of thing, which is why the average income is so high on here, because they are people that are looking to spend larger amounts of money on bigger events, life events, renovations, that type of stuff. They're unlikely to be going on there to buy, look for someone to come and clean their car for 25 quid or buy, you know, a £20 jumper or something like that. No, there are people that sell that stuff on there, but predominantly the Pinterest audience are the planning audience. So if you are like a high-end kitchen company, you're training people on different elements of interior design, maybe that's a great place for you to be. So if you're selling an interior design course, Pinterest would be a really good place for you to go over and start to connect with that audience. Twitter, as you can see, actually there's quite a lot of people, a bigger shift over here onto desktop than there is onto mobile, which is interesting. We've also got quite a difference in the ages of the people that are using it over here. So the 18 to 30s and the 50 to 65s are the predominant markets on there. They do spend very short amount of time on Twitter, 3 minutes a day. It's a very fast platform. So people do well on Twitter. I know people that do quite well on Twitter, but you've got to really nail it over there and grab their attention real swift. Now you'll see this has shifted over to a bit more of a male dominated area based on the information available. So it's an interesting one to start to look at and go, actually, am I trying to target male or female people in what I do? I know within New Zenler, there's a lot of people that are maybe life coaches or business coaches or that type of thing, and they like to only work with women or only work with men. So understanding this is interesting. But remember, this goes back to our one client avatar that we're looking for our one campaign. So if we decide we're going to really look at that guy that's 50 to 60 years old, and he's got a reasonable disposable income, this is going to be a place that you're going to want to consider, actually, how's this going to work for me? What can I do here? But you're also going to want to consider, actually, they're going to be browsing it over on a desktop, which does make a difference to the way that you present what you do. YouTube, so it shift a little bit again. Did you see that? So it shifts again, a little bit more male dominated over there. And the ages on here, we're middle-aged on here, 35, 44, you know, which is really interesting. But you'll also notice that that's gone down. So whereas before we had up to over 75k per annum, over here, it's only going up to 49 based on what they're telling us and the adverts that they're clicking, which is really interesting because YouTube should be one of the more accurate reporters on the people that are on their platform, because obviously they have loads of ads running through and people are clicking on stuff all of the time and it's all tracked. So if that's what they're telling us it is, that's what I believe it to be. Of course, 50-50 split on this one, which is really interesting. I think we assume that people watch all of YouTube's on a mobile. Maybe that's because you do, but clearly what we're seeing here is that people watch it on both, and it's very even. Loads and loads of users, and YouTube's really great for research. So if you're looking to see, is my actual audience on here? Are people selling what I do on here? You know, YouTube searches are phenomenal for actually finding out is somebody already doing it. And the likelihood is if they are, then there's an audience there, because people don't want to waste their time where nobody is listening and nobody's looking. LinkedIn, of course, the 75k goes up. That's dominant. The higher income brackets over on LinkedIn. We know it's a business platform, generally B2B over there. So we can also see the ages go up. So the 65 plus has gone up. This is very desktop dominated, which again isn't surprising. But we've got over here, let me just go, but I didn't actually go on those. 40 minutes a day on YouTube. That's how long people are spending on this. So you've actually got quite a lot of an attention span on here. For that amount of users, that's a high number. Over here, they're spending about 20 minutes a day on there, which is great. Again, slightly male dominated on it. It shifts a little bit over there, but I would argue it's more 50-50 on there. It really does facilitate us if we're looking to get into a corporation, into a business, and what we're offering is a business, someone that has that type of income. And remember, LinkedIn, people get the impression that you can only go onto LinkedIn to sell to a LinkedIn business, or to promote to a LinkedIn business. Remember, the people that are on there, yes, they may go on with their business hat on, and what they're looking to do is deals over there, but they're also CEOs, managing directors, you know, all sorts of people that look to buy personally as well within LinkedIn. And there are people on LinkedIn that, and I know a guy quite high up in the insurance world, he doesn't even have a Facebook account, because he's like, well, my people are not there. Why do I bother? If I ever want anything for myself, I'll go and find it on LinkedIn. So they do use it for themselves personally as well as professionally. So if you're thinking, look, I've got this course, or I've got this product or service that I want to sell, however, it's focused towards the domestic market, the individual. If your target audience is a professional working person, i.e. someone that would have a LinkedIn account, or they're owner of a business, or they're a director of a business, and they're likely to be on there, but you're selling a course or service that's for someone personal, you can still go over there and use it, and you can still promote it over there, because they will still be over there looking. So that's, I think, an underutilized resource for people. LinkedIn is my favorite of the social media platforms, because people do go in with a buy-sell mindset. So they're quite happy to have a conversation about a product or a service. They're interested, they're looking for opportunities, they're looking to grow personally as well. And I think on places like Facebook, where they're much more bombarded with adverts, and Instagram, they're less likely to do that, because they're not in the quite the same mindset when they're going on to those particular ones. So LinkedIn for me is an exception to the rule on social media. Then, of course, we come into some of the others, things like Snapchat. I mean, there isn't even a 65 plus category on here. That just gives you an idea. Of course, everybody is on mobile over here. Very female dominated, massively female dominated, apparently, according to this. My daughters love it. But you also see there is a bracket of earning potential on there, which means disposable income as well. But heavily 18 to 24, it's the young market on Snapchat. They spend 20-25 minutes a day, probably longer, to be fair. And of course, the growing one, which we don't have huge data on, But what's interesting is if you look at this compared to YouTube 40 minutes per day on here, people are spending 50 plus minutes a day on here based on the current information we've got. More male dominated, but again, much younger audience. Now, if you're looking as a financial advisor, or you're looking for the higher end ticket item, then TikTok is going to be probably a waste of time for you. Because those people are just not there. Again, if you're in the retirement market, the older person, you know, maybe the homeowner, even, not really going to be so appropriate for you on here. But it does get a lot of exposure. It does get a lot of views on it. So from a branding perspective, it could be quite good. From a, is somebody going to come along and get involved in my course perspective? Probably a bit less so, but you'll get a nice vanity metric out of it. So let's look at updates, and this is quite interesting, as in we put an update out, we create an update. How long does it actually last in an active feed? So how long can it be the algorithm still notifying people about it? How long is it still in existence where it's actually working for us? Let's use the term working for us. So based on what we've just seen and the amount of interaction, the speed of which people use the platforms, this actually is quite interesting. So Pinterest is an absolute phenomenal one. 6 to 12 months of pin will still be actively found within their platform, which is, considering how many users they've got and what they've got going on, that's pretty phenomenal. So you would need to make sure that when you put your pins in, you're going to make sure that they're top notch. I looked at my Pinterest account that I hadn't actually touched for over a year, and I'm still getting 68,000 people coming along and clicking onto my stuff. And I've done nothing for a year on there. So Pinterest definitely stacks up. People will find you. It does not become a dead account after a month. Twitter, 18 minutes. I think that's generous. The feed moves so quick. You put a tweet out, it's gone within 15-20 minutes. The algorithm's ignoring it. Nobody's seeing it. It sort of disappears as a rule of thumb. Instagram, 24 to 48 hours, excluding stories, which can be a little bit longer. They can last up to 4, 5, 6 days, but Instagram does last a bit longer. 24 to 48 hours is the suggested amount of time that it will still be active within the platform and people will still find it. Facebook, 6 hours. I think that's reasonably true. LinkedIn, 24 hours. TikTok, unless it goes viral, is instant. So the minute it goes on, the minute it starts actually disappearing from people's interests. So if it doesn't instantly go bang, 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 then it's just going to pretty much fall into nothingness, and you're not going to be able to see. Let me get rid of that. You're not going to be able to see it. So that's going to be. Let me get rid of this. That's going to be one to keep an eye on. Just make sure that you're aware that's exactly how that one works. So it can be good, younger market, active, long time on there. But if you don't create that instant attraction factor, then it's just going to fall into nothingness. And it doesn't, TikTok's a little bit of a strange one, as in you don't need thousands of followers to make it go viral. You can have 5. But it has to, someone has to instantly be picking it up and going, this is awesome, and it just suddenly blows up from there. YouTube, 20 to 30 days it can last actively on there, which is great. We know this with YouTube. The quality of the YouTube stuff and the consistency is what's important over there. Okay, let's move on. So how many times, and this is the big question, how many times on average should we be looking to update a social media account? Now, this again is based on the audience, the time people are spending on there, and based on how long an update lasts. So Pinterest is saying up to 20 times per day, 15 to 20 times per day to pin on there, which is quite hardcore. Now, there is a lot of information on there. I personally wouldn't do up to 20 times per day, but it gives you an idea that you need to have a big flow of content running through that account to make that 6 to 12 month algorithm stick with what you're trying to do. So I would use it as a good benchmark. I'd say a minimum of 10 times a day, and use some form of software to actually make that happen for you. Because if you're going to sit there, and a pin and a repin counts, so it's not just you've got to create that content yourself, it could be you repin. When we were testing this, I used to go in and repin 15 pins, which were appropriate, put them onto separate boards, and then put in 5 of my own that I've created. And that's led to where we are now with the account, and it's really strong. Facebook 1 per day. So I think that's reasonably accurate, that 1 per day, 7 days a week, that works really well. Twitter is saying up to 15 times a day based on the fact it only lasts 18 minutes. That's sort of, I think that's a bit over the top. I think 3 to 5 times a day would be appropriate, and spread out through the course of the day. Test it if Twitter is going to be your thing. These can be, so Twitter still has the restriction on what you can put in as an update, as in the amount of characters. So just think about how quickly you could repurpose what you already have and put into Twitter. And remember, it doesn't last forever. It doesn't even last for a couple of hours. So retweeting stuff that you've already put out, putting the same updates out and slightly rewording them is actually quite appropriate over there. If you try and do that on Facebook during the course of 7 days, everyone goes, well, you post the same content, it's boring. On Twitter, it doesn't matter so much. So you do have that flexibility to add in similar stuff and just repeat, rinse, repeat, and then add in some new stuff every now and then. LinkedIn once per day, excluding weekends, dependent on the country that you're in. Some countries, their weekends. So for example, Dubai, I don't know if it's actually changed back yet or not, but Dubai used to have their weekend start on a Friday. So it was Friday, Saturday, and then they went back to work on a Sunday. Over in the UK, obviously it's Monday to Friday. So you don't really want to be posting on there on a weekend so much. You can always split test it and see. There is, if your audience is VAs and you're teaching VAs to do something, Sunday night on LinkedIn is absolutely awesome because they're all on there preparing for Monday. So it is about knowing that audience and understanding, but one really good quality update on LinkedIn per day is more than good enough. Instagram twice a day, that actually ticks all of the boxes there. TikTok instant decay, post 1 to 4 times per day. You'll probably get lucky with one of those, that it will hit the right audience at the right time with the right post. And at some point, if you did that for a week, I'm pretty sure one of them would really take off, and really hit what you're doing, and then your audience would build, and then the next week that you did, you'd probably get more going on. You look at our New Zenler's TikTok account, and it's exactly that, where we don't have a huge following, but our views are up in the tens of thousands because we've had 1 or 2 that have hit that point at the right time with the right thing, and suddenly it's just gone mad. And YouTube suggestion is 1 per week. If you've got a brand new YouTube account, I'd suggest 1 per day for the first month, and then tail it down to 1 per week to maintain. That just gives it a bit of a kickstart. But that sort of gives you an idea of where you can start with what you're trying to do on social media. Now, this is a guideline. So when we're sitting there saying, oh yeah, you need to put out 15 tweets a day and all of that, that's not an absolute, right? If you want to sit there and you want to work out your posting plans, then you can do that. The point of the exercise for today is to give you an understanding of, if I put an update out on Facebook and nobody interacts with it, I feel like I'm wasting my time. I post once a week religiously. Why isn't it doing anything for me? Well, now you understand why it might not be working for you. Okay. If you're posting out on LinkedIn on a Saturday, every Saturday, and you're not getting the traction that you feel you deserve, you now understand why that might be. You also understand where your potential clients are going to be on what platform. You can double check this by going on to each of those platforms and looking for someone offering the same service as you. Because if there's someone already on there doing it and they're nailing it, as I say, YouTube is really good for this. Then you know that they're the right people that are going to be over there. You've just got to position yourself to be able to be at the top of the chain. And that can be done with any account without without ad spend. So don't think you've got to throw a load of advert money behind any of this. You don't have to do that. But remember the rules behind it, as in, number one, engagement's down. So specifically on things like Facebook, people are reluctant to want to contribute more publicly because they get hounded around the internet with all sorts of ads. And the same to a degree with YouTube. They don't want to be hounded around with adverts all of the time. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the quality of the update dependent on the platform. So for example, on YouTube, if you're only putting out one video a week, you've got to really work out what is that video going to be about, how much value is going to be in it. And I'm not talking about make it like War and Peace and that value equals doing a 5-hour video, because it doesn't work that way. But the value to your audience for what that video is, and it has to be good quality, it has to be well produced, and it has to be the right thing that they sit there and go, wow, I can't wait till next week to see the next one. On Twitter, it matters less because, you know, it goes so quick. You more, for them, it's more a case of you got to do something that stops the scroll, is what we say. That's the where people are just flicking through their phones. And it's like, you know, when you hit that one thing and you go, what's that? And then you scroll back down and you look at it. That's to stop the scroll. And that's what you need on places like Twitter, is to really put time and effort into what image, what first line can I put onto a tweet that's going to stop them from scrolling straight past me and ignoring me. And that takes extra effort to do that. The same with doing that on Facebook, that because it does go so quick, when people are scrolling through, you've got to be able to have it so people can stop, look, and then go back and go, what was that? And unfortunately, for the vast majority, what is put out is quite bland, and you can't always create total excitement and total interest, because let's face it, it's the internet. Nothing's new on the internet. We've seen everything from shocking to offensive to funny to everything in between. But what we're looking for is something that's eye-catching. So, and that doesn't have to be any of those things. It could just be something that's massively brightly coloured, for example. It could be something that's just a little bit unusual, that doesn't necessarily have a huge amount to do with what you're talking about, but as you scroll, it catches the eye to then have a look. And they're the sort of things that you need to be thinking about, as in, how can I make it so more people will stop scrolling straight past what I put out, and they'll come back and then they'll start to look at what I'm putting out there. Now, again, with all of these things, and LinkedIn is another great example of lack of engagement doesn't mean lack of interaction. So with people doing LinkedIn stuff, and I get it all of the time, people are much more likely on LinkedIn to private message you than they are to go on publicly and start commenting and stuff like that. So if they see something that they really like, they'll send you a message behind the scenes. So when you see accounts and you feel that they're more popular than yours or whatever, you've got to ask yourself a few questions as to how this has happened. So let's use LinkedIn for an example. You see a post on there and you see there's 40 comments. And you look at it and you go, well, it's a rather bland post. How have they got 40 comments on there? Have they, so the questions are, have they incentivized people to comment on their behalf? As in, have they emailed their list and gone, I've just put this post out, it'd be really great if you leave me a comment. That happens. The next thing is they might be part of a LinkedIn pod, as in an agreement between a group of people that go, if I put a post out, you comment on mine and I'll comment on yours. Right? These things happen. That's how they get some of them. They could be a well-known brand, in which case they're going to get the comments anyway because they're a celebrity, whatever. They get extra kudos in the algorithms anyway. So don't compare yourself to them. Or they could be, they could just genuinely be that they've created a topic that's really exciting or controversial, that sparked the interest of people. So, for example, at the moment in the UK, let's use the UK for an example. At the moment, everyone's talking about mortgages, all of some of the banks are ripping mortgages away from people. People are fearful of energy prices. These are really hot topics of conversation right now. So you get a mortgage advisor come on and come up with an amazing headline, and then a picture of an empty house or whatever, or a cold house, and they're talking about either mortgages or energy price or whatever it might be, a financial advisor maybe. People are going to stop and they're going to have an opinion, because at the moment people are really riled up about it. It's partly what we call newsjacking, where you take a hot topic that's in the press, you have an opinion on it, and then people want to jump on it because they want to be heard, because the press don't hear normal people. So what you do is you create the environment where people want to come in and go, oh, the energy part, they're rip-offs, they're all doing this and they're doing that, and how dare they start drilling for oil in the middle of Birmingham, you know, that's where I walk my dog, etc., and all of that. So that creates an environment where genuinely people will get involved. How productive that is towards what you're trying to achieve, as in getting people into a course or to sell something or to get them on a list or whatever it is, I'm not entirely sure. It certainly uses up a lot of time because you have to interact. But what it does do is it does create on that platform a positive relationship with the algorithm within that post. So they are good, but I wouldn't suggest you do them all of the time because they're exhausting, and the benefit doesn't always outweigh the input. So be careful when you do that. So my underlying thing with this is, remember to don't compare yourself with the next person that's doing what you do, as in, I put this post out, I got 3 likes, they put that post out, it's pretty much the same, they got 50 likes. Why are they liked more than I'm liked? And this, people do it all of the time. The thing is, number one, you're not them. You haven't got the same account, you haven't got the same connections, you haven't got the same history about how you've run your account, and they haven't with you. 2, we don't know how they've incentivized people to interact, if they have, as in, are they part of a LinkedIn pod? Are they part of a networking group? And I see this with networking groups as well. Are they part of some form of club where they've had an opinion and it's based on something to do with the club? You know, are they part of an organization where they've had it promoted in there that month and everybody's gone over and commented? It's not always as straightforward as put a post out, how many of my connections like it. Sometimes there's stuff that happens in the background that we're not all privy to. So what I'm saying is, don't be judgmental or harsh on yourself if what you put out doesn't get the level of public interaction you think it deserves, because that doesn't mean people are not appreciating what you've done or liking what you've done. It could be they don't want to be followed by adverts. It could just be actually they're biding their time and they're just wanting to watch you and see what you're about. We get people like this in my business all the time, where you know, you suddenly get a message going, I've been watching your blog posts for the last 18 months. I really like what you do. Can we have a conversation? I feel like I know you. But you have to be consistent. So let's go back to the beginning. Understand your audience. Understand your audience. Choose your platform based on the information I've just given you, as in, is your audience on there? And then understand how to create a posting plan that you can stick to dominate over 12 months. Because if you are consistent and you stick to pretty much what I've told you to do here, then of course there's no guarantee, then you'll be leaps and bounds from where you are, but you will also be having the regular of content out there that the algorithms like. Your audience starts to build and they start to interact with you. And hopefully, if you do it right with the right type of content mix in there, it will turn into people making the right actions on what you're doing, whether that be, here's a lead magnet, come and comment on my blog post, come and get my free module of my course, or whatever it is. And that should start to happen quite quickly. If you are erratic, you don't know your audience, and you're just genuinely posting stuff because you feel like it, and you're doing it on 5 different platforms and it's all the same, it's not really going to work so well for you, and you're just going to get frustrated you're not going to grow anything, and it's not going to happen. Which is why when you see certain type, let's call them influencers, because that's what they self-declare themselves to be, you'll find there's an Instagram influencer, it's so and so, because they go out and dominate Instagram for what they do. You don't go, oh yeah, they're an Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Twitter influencer. It doesn't happen. They have one that they dominate. That doesn't say they don't have a presence on the other, but their focus and their full attention is on, I'm going to be the biggest name in this area, this business, this whatever, on this platform, and I'm going to absolutely smash it and nail it. And that's where most of their attention goes, and then they get the results. So, but start with audience, understand where they are, understand how to write the right amount of content to go out to them. I'm not going to get into what type of content to put together in this particular live because it would just take too long. And then just go out and nail it. David, I know you've got a couple of questions. You can hop on, mate, if you want. I'm pretty much wrapped up.
Brilliant. Yeah, that was a great one. That's going to help a lot of people, because you see all those, when you see the stats, it just makes it really visible what's going on with the platform, and will almost in a way dictate your choice as well. Like Kevin's already mentioned about, finding that particular social platform. And that's what I was going to ask you, Kevin. I mean, one thing for sure, this could be a challenge I've put into the chat. Kevin, please, if you want a social media planning challenge, so that'll be ticking up for you to do. Another challenge. I know Kevin's got tons of stuff planned, so that'll be another one in there. It's almost relentless with these challenges, because we just come up with these ideas all the time. But choosing the right platform is quite a hard one, isn't it? What would you suggest? Would you suggest someone just starts with one, or just sort of shotguns a lot of platforms and see which ones pick up the interest? How would you think about that?
Well, the choosing the platform's easy. The ignoring the other platforms is where people struggle, because they have this fear of missing out, right? If I don't post on there, I might miss someone. They might not see me. What they're not recognizing is if they put all their attention on the one, actually, they're going to get way more people there of the right people. Now, I get the fact that you need a presence on a lot, but that doesn't mean that you've got to put 100% effort in. So, for example, if I decided that I was going to go full out onto YouTube, right? YouTube was my audience, that we're going to absolutely smash it, right? I'd be doing exactly what I said, right? I'm going to do 30 videos. I'm going to pre-do them all. Right, my first month on a brand new account, 30 videos, one a day, and then I'm going to set one. So I'm going to create 32. That covers my first 3 months, right? That doesn't mean I'm going to go and ignore Twitter, but I'm not going to go out and do 15 tweets a day as well.
Yeah.
It just means I'm going to just trickle a little bit here and there. What I'll probably do is share my YouTube videos onto my Twitter platform. Yeah, so use the same content. So I'm not really putting too much effort on Twitter. I'm not ignoring them, but I'm sort of saying that if you are here, but you're my audience, you'll probably be here as well. So come from here over to here, because that's where I'm putting all my attention. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
rather
and also
than trying to dominate everything, because it would just, if you're on your own, it's pretty much impossible.
And I think with that answer, you've sort of answered the whole question, because again, this has come up again, and we mention it all the time about reusing content. So it's like perfect, like Kevin was mentioning there, if you're posting to Facebook, you could post to Twitter at the same time. You can reuse that content and save yourself a lot of time. So if you find, and you might find, I don't know if you've had this as well, Kevin, but when I started, I was like trying to get over every platform. But I kind of knew that all my stuff was video, and I knew YouTube was going to be the way to go. I always kind of knew that, and that is the way that it's worked out. But I still was on lots of other platforms, and I was still monitoring initially for the first 6 months what the engagement was, because at that stage, I might well have switched to another platform, or I might have invested more time and split it across two. I wouldn't want to put all my time into all of them. So doing exactly what you do is reuse some of that content and put it onto the other platforms if you've got them, to show a presence. But that key to, because can you imagine, right? It's like I always think of like the users coming into the platform. And I said this to Liz earlier. They come into the platform and all they think about is, oh, I've got so much to learn with Zenler. And it's almost like the marketing, even the planning of their site and course comes after. Whereas actually it's like the other way around. And I think it's this overwhelm that people get because there's a lot to take in. How would you break it down? What would you say the most important thing is to start with this sort of stuff in a nutshell, Kevin? I know you can talk for hours.
Audience building is a continual thing, right? It's not a start-stop process because that means that you lack in between. So, you know, audience building should be something that you have something doing it every single week. Now, whether that's growing social media following or building an email list or, you know, blog viewers or whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. But you should always be looking to build the audience consistently. What tends to happen is people only ever look at their audience when they're looking to sell something. And then what they do is they'll go, oh, I don't have an email list. Oh, how can I do? I'm launching this in 3 weeks. How do I get people to buy this? And people are not stupid, right? They'll see you put out a free offer and then 2 weeks later, you're making them an offer. It doesn't feel very nice, to be honest. Yet, if I came across you and you were 6 months out from launching your first course and you'd started to build up a following and you was giving out little tips and you was helping and all of that, and then 3, 4, 5 months into that relationship, it was like, well, actually, I'm now launching this course. Who's interested? I'd feel much more inclined to want to at least take a look at it. Because the other way around, it just feels a little bit graspy, you know, and it doesn't really work well for a long-term relationship. And of course, if you are selling courses or training, then it's unlikely you're only ever going to have one course. So your relationship with your students or your potential students should be long-term, as in, I'm doing my first course, but it will probably lead on to another one maybe next year. Maybe this is the entry level, but I want people to go with me as I go along because that's what they want, rather than having to keep building it as you go. It's exhausting. It's exhausting doing a launch like that where you've got no audience to start with to try and sell something. You put yourself under so much pressure, and that pressure to sell comes through in everything that you do, and people can instantly sense it. You know, and that's sort of the untold negative of reactionary marketing. You know, how do you tell someone that there's a feeling that they're desperate to sell something? It's not like a word you can say, don't put that word in. It's a whole way of being when you present stuff, and most people can just feel it. They feel, oh, it doesn't feel right, or they can't quite put their finger on it, but something just doesn't feel right. And when you're in a good place, as in you're happy because you're creating, there's no pressure to sell at the moment, and then you start putting your engagement stuff out, because there's no pressure, there's no expectation for you to sell in it, you're much more relaxed in the way that you present. And when you do it like that, people are actually sort of biting your arm off to buy stuff because you're not pushing it. Do you see what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah, and it's a much more gentle approach. I mean, I will admit that I've probably done every kind of mistake over the years that you could possibly do. I've done this thing where it's like, I just want to get some money in, so here we go, I'll sell it straight to you, no warm up or anything. I think we've all been there and then gone, actually, that's not the right act. That's not the right way to do it, and you've got to be careful of that. That's why communities and engagement, as Kevin's mentioned this before, is so important, that you're engaging and you're keeping things consistent. But it is, I know, like a lot of you guys are going to be watching this and go, right, well, Lizzie's thing planning a course, and now Kevin's saying about all the marketing and all this stuff. It seems like it's a real overwhelmed thing. And I think it's just a case of planning things. Because I like to look at it, you don't have to like hit it hard. You've got no time. You're already working. You've got looking after your children, doing all these things, but you can easily set aside a certain amount of time a day. and just make sure you stick to that. And that's the planning stage. I don't know how you work, Kevin. That's kind of how I work. I have these sets. I get up very early. So I have these planning stages that I make sure I get certain bits done.
Yeah, planning is always good because it means that you're not in the moment. You know where you're going and what you're doing. I mean, it helps you with everything. But yeah, I mean, going back to what you was just saying, let's use Zenler as an example. You know, so if we decided actually next week we're going to put the price up for new Zenler, we could go out to our audience during the next 7 days, do 7 days of live saying the price is going up, the price is going up, come and buy. Now, why can we do that? We can do it because for the last 2 years, we've been in our community, we've been on Facebook, we've been in the emails, we've been giving you loads of stuff. You've got to know us, right? And yeah, there's brand new people, but we've got people that are pro users, which it's completely irrelevant to them because there is no higher level than pro, but we've got free users and they might have been with us for a year, 2 years, 3 years. So our audience is warm, let's say, because they already know us. Right, so you can do it that way. You can. What you can't do is go, right, day 1, 0 audience. Oh, let's throw a load of Facebook ads, get an audience. Day 2, oh, I've got 50 people on a list. They're my audience now. Day 3, sell crap to audience. But you can't do that because in 3 days, they have no idea really who you are. If we were to do that and we said today, right, 2 years on, we've been in here every single week in the group. A lot of people know us. They know me. They know David. They're getting to know Alice and Liz and all of that. You know, if we as new Zenler said, right, okay, I'm doing a live now. We're putting the price up next week. This is what it's going to be. Do you want it? Here's the link. Go and upgrade. They're going to go, oh, there's no trust to be built because the trust is already there. The connection's already there as an audience. They already know us, right? They've got no reason to doubt what I'm saying is true. And every reason to believe it. So then it becomes a case of, actually, am I ready to upgrade? Oh, let me have a look at what that offer is. And having a look is more than enough for anything that we're trying to achieve. Whether they do or they don't is completely up to them. But you can see the massive difference in the 3-day audience to the 2-year audience and the engagement. And that's what we're trying to do on social media is lots of people want the 3-day, as in, oh, I've got my course launching in 2 weeks. How do I sell it? That's the example of the 3-day. What they should be doing is going, right, in 6 months' time, I'm going to be launching a course, or in a year's time, I'm going to launch my first course. I start today, right? And just trickle it through using all of the things I've just gone through, build, engage, give them a little bit here and there and all of that. That's not to say they're not going to ask how to buy from you, or they might buy from you other things. But then when you get to the point of going, right, my course is starting, it's in pre-launch. Who wants to get in the pre-launch deal? There's not a trust issue going on because they know you and trust you at that point. It's just a case of, actually, the third part of the sale is, do they actually want it? So the no is there, the trust is there. So that's the first 2 elements of any sale. The third bit is, do they actually want the damn thing?
Yeah.
And if at that point they go, yeah, I want it. That's why I've been with you. I've been waiting for this. This is great. You don't have to sell anything. So all of the people that sit there going, oh, I hate selling, you're not actually selling anything because you're just saying, look, if it's here, if you want it, right? You trust me. You know how good this is going to be. If you want it, it's there. It's on a pre-launch deal. Go and grab it. And that's
and again, this is why it's really important with if you've got your sales page, so you've got adverts running in your sales page and things, you don't want to just go on there and say, but you know, this jewelry course or something, buy this now and that's it. You want to put on there what it's about. You want to put on other users' experience so you can see what people have said about you. And sometimes not always good. It might be a sort of like, well, it was good, you know, it's worth the money. I didn't learn what I was thinking, but that's fine as well. You can put those things because then it means that you're not just putting so many people. I mean, Amazon's classic for it, all these fake reviews that go on there by the people that are vending. You know, you do not want to fall into that. You want to get this honest thing and this engagement. So even people who land in your page, they might not know you, but they'll see all the nice reviews. Maybe they'll join your Facebook group and they'll ask some questions, but they're getting to know you. And of course, if you're there a lot, like Kevin was saying, like on Zenler specifically, we're on here all the time. So everybody knows us. And that is the key, I think. It's not just like the cold buy it.
Yeah. And the thing is people getting to know you as people within the business. I mean, even yesterday we had it when Manmeet and Zenzone emails. Right, somebody's gone on going, you know, we've had all these emails. Right, now we're not saying you never got them. We don't know. We're just going to go and have a look. And yeah, hands up. If we've sent you 3 emails, one after the other, for the same thing, and you didn't sign up, well, we need to find out why. Because if it's happening in our system, it's probably happening in other people's that's using Zenler. Could be an issue with the email system. We've got no idea. But we'll find out and we'll sort it. And if we're wrong, we'll apologise because we make mistakes, just like every other human being in the world. You know, and if there's an issue with the system or there's something not quite right there, we'll come back and feed that back. That's just another trust building exercise. That's not sitting back and going, oh, you're wrong, you signed up for all these things. We don't know. We're going to have to look at it and find out. You know, so the thing is that whole bit about building that community, and I think that's probably why I really like Zenler with the live aspect of the course creation, is whether you have them in a Facebook group or you just have them within your Zoom classes or your community in Zenler or wherever it is, that live bit really gives you that opportunity to connect with your students in person, or your leads, or your webinar people, or however you want to use it. You can just sort of build that relationship more than a cold post and picture, which can only do so much. You have to sort of work out the stages because it has to go from there to the next bit. Normally what happens in marketing is you go from a post, which is normally an update stroke image stroke video, to an opt-in, because an email is a little bit more personal. They feel they've got a better connection with you via email, and then an email turns into some form of live or whatever video scenario. Sometimes if it's a one-to-one call, sometimes it's a little group call, might be a regular weekly live like we do in office hours. You know, you can guarantee some of the team will be there every Wednesday on office hours live. It might be me, it might be David, it might be Rakesh, it might whoever, but someone from Zenler will be there every Wednesday. You know, so that's a guarantee. And we've done that for over 2 years. So that's how it escalates in the relationship side of things. But it starts somewhere. Everything starts somewhere, and it's finding the right people on the right platform with the right type of engagement. And that's really what today's session has been about.
Yeah, and it's been a really good one. I loved it, Kevin. You're starting to get some people coming about the challenge that I just put you towards. So running a social media planning challenge. So yeah, I'm sure people are going to go, Kevin, please. There can be loads of hashtags in there. So you're going to have to do a challenge.
We'll certainly think about it. We've got a few challenges coming up. You know, the blogging, second part of the blogging challenge is coming up. So we did the first one. Then there's going to be the next variation, which is coming in. And of course, with the launch of the blog.newzenler.com, that gives us all the opportunity to show off our blogging skills on there under the Zenler banner through the Zenler site. So if you haven't yet seen that and you're watching this and you're curious, I'll put the link in and you can go and have a look. But yeah, so there are quite a few things that are sort of on the cusp of coming up over the next 3 to 6 months. But I could probably throw a social media one in there somewhere if people are really interested.
Like you're not busy enough. Thank you, Kevin. It's been a really good one.
Sorry, Fabulous. I've gone a little bit over time.
Mammy's waiting in the backstage. She's ready to come on.
Go. Thanks, everyone.
See you later, Kevin. Fabulous. Hi, Manmeet. Oh, you're muted. Hello.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Ah, there you go. You're on.
That's live.
Okay.
That's live for us.
So I don't know if you've seen, we had Liz on earlier and we had Kevin on there. Really interesting stuff. And we've got another really big topic as well. And it made me kind of chuckle a little bit because like Mammy is just like, she'll do everything. You say, oh, can you help me with this? Okay, you're going to have to do that. Can you do that? And she's like, yes, I'll do that. I'll do that. And then our subject today, right, and this will make you laugh, is how to say no. So, which is a really big subject. I mean, so many people are people pleasers, and they'll put their health and everything else at risk by just not saying no to certain things they're doing. So this is a really good one that Manmeet's going to cover. So I can't wait to see this. So
Thank you so much.
I'm going to hand
I just
over
hope
to
I'm able to do justice to the topic.
you. Say no. Okay, I'll hand over to you. Take it away, Manmeet.
Thank you so much. A very good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whichever part of the world you're watching us from. Thank you so much for being here. And today I have prepared no presentation because this topic is very close to my heart. So I will just be talking and sharing my experiences and my journey, which is real time, because I believe if you share examples, real time situations, anybody who's listening to you is able to relate better. And that's how I learned. That's how I learned the concept of saying no when people, my coaches, told me that their real life experiences. So like I shared already, today's topic is a very special one. And it is also somehow a self-learned skill. And I did not realize the power until I started using it. So I wanted to put my topic today under one banner, which is the power of saying no. Yes, I'm using the word power. And today, probably you will think I'm going to contradict myself because you might have seen me in different videos in Zenler on different sessions. And I've always talked about and have been a firm believer of being an opportunity seeker. I'm always saying yes without a lot of thought. But at the same time, I have never said that do not consider your personal space. I have never said be a people pleaser and do not look at the bandwidth you have at that moment. Definitely say yes to all the opportunities that come your way, but always consider what is going on in your life at that moment. Do you have space? Do you have bandwidth to take on that work, to take on that opportunity? Only then say a yes. Apart from that, you don't have to think much. And like I said, in this presentation, I'm going to be talking about personal experiences and stories. When I was a small kid, and I'm sure you would also agree with me if this has happened with you, I would often visit my relatives, my friends, and sometimes I wouldn't want to eat a certain type of food, or probably I wouldn't want to recite a poem or dance for the people present in the room. But in our childhood, we were taught to say yes. We were taught to be agreeable because we were often told that, you know, they are seniors to you, they're elder to you. And if you don't do it, it won't look good. And since the childhood, it is said that till the 7 years of age, whatever you learn is how your mind and your brain is molded. So when we did not want to do a certain thing, our parents guided us and told us that it won't look good. We picked up a definition of no. We picked it up as rejection or denial. We thought it is not a good thing to do. It is negative in nature to say no. It also means it won't look good if you say no. You as a person wouldn't look good if you say no. And let me give you a new perspective today. When you say no, it means you are choosing and prioritizing something else which is more important now. And hear me with all the concentration right now. When you say no, it means you are ready for the next opportunity. N stands for next, O stands for opportunity. So when you say no to someone, it means this is not the right fit for you right now, but the next opportunity coming your way or already waiting for you is the right fit for you. And that's the perspective I want you to leave after you listen to me in this 1 hour. Very often we hear the word no to be considered negative, like I've already shared. But if you ask me now, after the learnings that I've got, I would say no can be the most positive word I can think of. And hold on, before you feel what on earth is this girl talking about, let me share an example with you. It was a regular day at work. I started with full enthusiasm, a cup of tea, my ring light, my setup, all there, and all happy. I sat to work. I had to prepare a presentation, and I had all my tasks aligned for the day because I'm a big person who's old school, writing the to-do list in the diary. So all my tasks were aligned. I had to prepare a presentation, and suddenly a client calls. And that was my first red flag. Yet I picked up the call while I was working, because any call can disturb you and break your flow and momentum. So that was the first place I had to say no, but I didn't. I picked up that call. And the next question that came was, can you get on a call for some time? Now there's no definition of some time. Need some help with XYZ. And the person I was, or I am still, my response was, all right, sure, I'll help you. And I didn't even realize 4 hours of my day went in helping that client. If I would have thought it through for even 1 minute, I would have realized if I say yes, I don't know what time is it going to take. I don't know how messy or how good can it turn out to be. And whichever case it was, I could sense that, maybe all the tasks that I've aligned, maybe the presentation that I have to do, I'll miss on that. If I would have thought for 1 minute, but without the thought, I said, yes, sure, I'll help you out. And gone were the 4 hours of my day, which was very important and crucial to me. And, if I used the power of no, and if I would have said, I'm a bit occupied with my task and they're aligned already, can we do this tomorrow or the weekend? I would have prepared my presentation for, this day with Zenler today. And this is a real experience from yesterday. And I would have prepared this so much in advance. But thanks to the time difference between UK and India, I did it this morning. I had enough time to put it together. So you see how powerful the word no can be. It means next opportunity. It means growth. If you keep saying yes, it will always be a loop. And we all know getting out of a loop is damn difficult. Now, why are we discussing this? Is it even relevant to our businesses? And I know you might be thinking this. And the answer is definitely yes. And it can be any other sector or area in life. And it is most crucial to us as entrepreneurs. Let me share different examples with you, different case scenarios with you, which will help you to understand that why am I saying this? Okay. So the first one is, if, of course, all the people in Zenler have their academies and are coaches. So my first example is for the coaches. If you are someone, let's say, you're coaching on health and fitness, you will either use diet plans or probably home remedies or probably yoga. Now, there can be a scenario that you are using a combination of all three, or you are using one at a time. And even if you're using all three as a combination, or if you're using one at a time, this also means that you are also targeting certain type of people. Program, it could be one-on-one calls, it could be a recorded program, it could be a 6-week program, it could be anything. The variation could be anything. But someone comes up to you and says, I don't need 3 weeks, I don't need 4 weeks, I need a week, or I need a 2-week program. If you keep accommodating everyone and every request that comes your way, will you ever be able to scale up? Will you ever be able to move from one-on-one to recorded courses in your program if you keep accommodating every small request? I think the answer is no. Do sit down, think for a moment, and ask yourself, will you be able to do it? The second example is a service-based business. You're working with your client and you sell a service which is done for you or done with you service. And you've already finalized a price before you begin the service. Now, as the work started to jump up, the client request, can you do this? Can you do that? just a favor, or probably pay this little amount for that service. Yes, this little amount for that service, which is just a favor. Now, if you say yes, you will do it half-heartedly because you're not happily doing it. One, you are not happy with the sudden request that is coming up after the price has been finalized. And second, the price is not worth the efforts you're putting in. The client is not able to see the value that you're putting in. I know for sure from a personal experience, you will do it to keep the business, to keep that client, but half-heartedly. And when we do things half-heartedly, it is not our best work and it is not the best quality we bring to the table. I know you nodding yes in your head when you're listening to me when I say this, that we do not bring the best of the quality to the table when we do it half-heartedly. And of course, the irritation that you get from all of this scenario, that is going to impact all your other stuff. If you had 10 things to do in a day and number 3 has disturbed you because of this one particular client, the rest of the 6 or 7 are definitely going to be impacted. Let's go to the third one. Now let's consider a product-based business. Let's say you sell physical products with a small customization or handicraft store probably. Now, once your order is placed, the customer keeps asking you, can you tweak this? Can you tweak that? And again, the same story. You know, I can do this much. I can pay this much to you. Can you do that kind of a change? Or maybe the customer says, you know, it's just this much. Why do we need to change the price? Or keeps bargaining with you. If you say yes, the time consumed in producing that one product could actually take you towards a loss, because you could spend that time in producing so many more products, delivering so many more orders, and coming up with new ideas. Again, the same thing that we discussed in the above example. It could be your irritation that will spoil your mood. It could be your time consumption. It could be a loss because you're not really getting the money that is worth your efforts. That's why I'm reiterating, no means growth. No is a positive word. We just need to use it the right way. Let's talk about Zenler as a platform. We love our users and the way they stick with us when we keep updating and having new features, changes, and people who are with us since the start. I was speaking to Tracy the other day and she said she's with us since 2019 and 20 and is still here and supporting our growth. But even as a platform like Zenler, whenever a new feature request comes in, we do not immediately say, oh yes, we can do this. This is a good feature. The team takes the time, researches about it, looks at the number of people who would benefit from that, does their own piece of research, and then takes a decision. If we as a platform as well kept accepting each little feature request that came in, do you think we would have been able to scale it to the level that we are now? It is just because you realize that how to go about taking a decision when something new comes in. It is not always about saying yes. In all the 4 examples that are shared, whether it is a coach, a service, or a product, when you say no, trust me on this, you are actually benefiting the client because their work can be fulfilled by someone who actually does that, who is actually open to that kind of work or serves the kind of request they are asking you to do. And they will get a quality delivery because we have already discussed that if you do something half-heartedly, I am sure we do not bring quality to the table as much as we want to try because the feeling impacts us. So the growth, again, the growth is in saying no and moving to the next opportunity. Now, having said this, like I said, I will be sharing examples and real-time experiences. So let me share about myself. And this is the first time I'm going to do this on Zenler as a platform. Back in the second half of 2022, my focus was on earning money because I had just quit my job and I had moved to business. So my focus was on earning money, and I was trading my time for money rather than focusing on scaling up. Once I saw the potential of my skill and the money it could make, I said yes to everything that came my way. You want this? Yes. You want that? Yes. You want me to do this? Absolutely, I'll do that. No matter which sector did it apply to, or it was different from what I was doing at that moment, yes, under the same umbrella that my skill applies to, I said yes to everything. Whether it was teaching a skill to students, whether it was teaching a skill to professionals, or maybe working as a trainer at colleges with a third-party company, maybe delivering a product to someone, with having a contract with a third party, with because of which I incurred losses as well, because I know the quality I want to bring on the table, but I don't know how much can I trust that third party. And I have had times when people backed off, left the project in the middle, and I had to complete it from nowhere. And that's all happened because I said yes. And let me tell you, in these 1 to 2 years from 2020 to I think 2021, I did make money. I did make money. I will not shy away from, disregarding that fact that I did make money. But you know what I lost? Because I did not use the power of no, I lost my business growth. I could have been at a place, much better place, if I did not do everything at once and if I did not serve everything at once with the focus on the money. I lost my health. I didn't focus on my health, whether I need to do some morning yoga, I need to do some evening exercise, I need to go for a walk. I was just busy. I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to sit in front of the system. I just didn't take care of my health. And also, I lost the time with my family. And time is one thing that never comes back. If I'm working 8 to 9 hours a day, I do not have time to sit with them and talk to them. And that was a major hit. That's when I learned the power of saying no, and I'm at a much better place from now. From then, right now, I'm at a much better place. And I know what's the thought that you have right now. Okay, Manmeet, got it. The power of saying no is a very strong feeling, and one has to learn it and experience it. We've got that. But how to do it? What's the process? We can't just go up front and say, no, I can't do it. That's not how you deal with clients. We don't want to run out of business. And I totally agree to you. Let me share with you 3 steps to say no. Now, this is steps that lead, one step leads to another. And you have to make sure that you do the step 1, then you go to step 2, and then you go to step 3. You can't change the number. The first thing, whenever a request like this comes to you from any client, from anyone in your life, any area of life, whenever new request comes in, don't make up a story. Don't fluff. Don't try to give excuses. Just very politely, which I'm going to be sharing in a short while, that how do you share politely that you are not available at that moment. So use those examples and politely say that you are not ready at that moment. But don't fluff. Don't give excuses, because the client will understand. Don't give them excuses like, this thing in your particular project is not working out. That's why I'm not able to do. This particular thing is not working out. That's why I'm not able to do. So don't do that. Be upfront, but in a very polite way, and I'll tell you how to do that. The step 1 is done. You've made up your decision. You are very firm that you are going to say no, and you will say it politely. And that decision is final. The second step is, don't change your decision. Stick to it. And when I say stick to it, that means do not go back to saying yes. Because even if you think about any other things that are coming in your mind, and if you feel that you're going to say yes, then that is going to be an emotional decision. And I'll tell you why. Because that emotional decision will be with the fact that I will lose this client, I will lose the references that the client can come in, and I will lose the references that the client can get in, and many other things will pop in your head. Because if you had to say yes, you would have done it in the first go. You would have not taken a decision to say no in the first go. Because you would have taken your time to say no. It wasn't that the client said and your immediate reaction will be no. Nobody does that. Our first reaction is always yes. So if your first reaction is no, that means you've thought this through and you know this is not going to work for you. And the second step, if you say yes, that means it's an emotional decision. So don't go back on your decision, because if you do that, it is going to be half-heartedly and you will not bring quality to the table. Step one, be firm about your decision. And second, don't change your decision. Third, help them with an alternative, because they are your client. And of course, you've been working with them, you have a good relationship. You can't do it, but I'm sure someone else will. I'm sure someone else provides that kind of service or is in a stage of business where they're just starting out and they would want to leverage to work with any small project that they get. So refer someone, help them out, don't leave them midway. That's, I don't know the right word for it, but they are your client, you've been working with them. So now it's your responsibility that you help them with an alternative and don't leave them midway. So that's the 3 ways to say yes. But now the fact is that how do you come up with a no? How do you know whether it is time to say yes or it is time to say no? Because you would say that, you've been saying across the presentation, our response to everything is always yes. So how will I know that I have to say no? When will it occur to me that this is not the right situation? The exercise is very simple. You only have to delay your response. What do I mean by delaying your response? That means whenever a client asks something to you, even if it's on a phone call, even if it's on a message, just tell them a few, tell them politely. You could say, for example, I'm a bit occupied at the moment. Can we speak about this in a couple of days? This way you have gained some time. Or you could say that, just give me a couple of hours. I'm in the middle of something. I'll just call you back in 5-10 minutes. Even if you gain 5 to 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 1 day, 2 days, 1 week, that time is for you to sit down and think it through. Take a piece of paper, write down why you should do it and why you shouldn't do it, and you will know your answer, whether it's a yes or whether it's a no. So the simple way of how to say no is delaying your response. And once you delay your response, you will know whether you have to say a yes or whether you have to say a no. Some of the responses that you could share could be, I'm a bit occupied at the moment. Can we speak about this in a couple of days? You could also say that my hands are full. Can we discuss this in the coming weeks? Or you could say, I'm already occupied with my prior commitments. If this is urgent to you, can we speak to someone else? Or you could say, my sincere apologies, I will not be in a position to take that request for the next 2 weeks. These are some ways that you can use to say no to your client, your partner, or maybe any area of life that you are in right now. I'm specifically talking about business right now, but if you understand the concept clearly, you can use this concept in any area of life. And when you realize that how important it is to say no, you will understand and you will always take a breath before you are about to say that yes to anyone. Because like I have been saying throughout the presentation, no would mean that you are ready for something else, for your next opportunity, or you are ready to take on the next goal and you are ready for growth. Because if you repeatedly kept saying yes, you will not be able to move forward. Like, for example, if you get 4 requests in a day and you say yes to each one of them, each request will take up 4 to 5 hours of your time. When will you think of new innovations? When will you think of creativity? When will you think of brainstorming? You wouldn't just get the time to thinking of something new. And that's why using no as a concept is very, very important. And from here, David, I would love to talk to you and understand your perspective on whatever I shared just now.
Hi, Manmeet. I think that's really good. And I think we've all fallen into this thing at some time in your careers. taking on the responsibility, especially when you're younger and you don't really sort of know and you're making your way in the world. It's one of those things that you do. You're just saying yes to everything because you have this thing that you want to please your employer if you're working for someone else or your client that you've got, and you just take on these responsibilities. You're working, but you're being underpaid the market value for what you're actually worth doing, but you kind of don't care because it's like, I'm going to just make them happy and it's all like, especially when you're younger, it's all about making someone else happy, being better, taking on more responsibilities, not getting any reward for it. I think the key as you start to get older and you start to do more of this stuff, especially when you've got your own businesses and you're selling and you're making, a lot of money on, if you work it all out at your hourly rate, and you think that's what I'm worth, I shouldn't be underpaid that. There are some caveats to that. I mean, for instance, like I will take on jobs and I will not take my actual value, my monetary value, but I'll take those jobs on because it gives me something else. It gives me joy. If it gives me joy, it kind of doesn't matter. And I think if you get that mindset that, what you're doing, you love to do, then the money kind of follows it. And it's not even about the amount of money you're earning. It's about that you're valued.
Yes.
If you're valued for what you're doing, then you will be paid more, or that's how it should work. It doesn't work with all employers, of course, because a lot of employers just don't put your money up and you have to I make a habit of doing this. I don't know if you guys do it, but every company I ever worked for, and not right at the beginning when I was starting the first time, maybe 5 years, but after that, every year, if I wasn't asked, and you'll find this with a lot of employers, they won't actually broach the subject, oh, you can go on to a new wage. So every year I used to say, right, give me a self-assessment. I'm taking on this much responsibilities. I want a pay rise. And you tell them, and this is where the power changes. It's like when you go for an interview. When you go for an interview, what I used to do is like, oh, I'm so nervous. I'm going for an interview. I really want this job. But what I do now is I have this new mindset where I go for a job and like, what will this job give me? How, you're going to employ me, but do I want to take the job on? And as soon as you get that mindset, you get power. You get all the power goes to you. And it's amazing. It's almost like a feeling inside of like euphoria because you're now taking control of the situation. Whereas what will happen if you go into big meetings or for a job, you might go, I remember one time I went into a meeting and there was 10 people around the table, big, long table, big company. And I went in there and I was already prepared for it. So they had lots of people around there and it was almost intimidating. Well, it would have been intimidating had I not been prepared. I went in there and I had big brochures that I printed out. They were about 10 pages long, a bit more. And I gave one of those to each of the people around the table. And they just looked at me in wonder, like, what are you doing? And then I explained to them what I want from this job. And it totally shifted. So those kind of things can really be powerful for you. So, but that thing, the root thing is saying no, no to things. It's like I was working for a marketing company and I wasn't being valued. And eventually I just said, do you know what? I don't want this. So I said, look, I'm only going to take on jobs that I love. Like this was website design and development stuff. I'm only taking on, and I was contracted. So I only taking on jobs that I want to do, that I'm going to get joy for. And also my money's going up. And I times my money by 3 times. And literally the reason I did that was because I didn't want the work. And I was like, I don't care. So this is what I'm worth. This is what you're not been paying me for all these years. And this is what I now want now. And I went into it like that. There was an email that went around that said, David now is only taking on jobs that he wants to do, that he loves to do. He's not taking any boring jobs on. And I thought it was so funny because they kind of turned it. It was me being the problem, but they never offered me a pay rise in the first place. So it's like, you've lost me, and that's what I did.
Such a nice approach you're sharing about.
Well, it was extreme, but I didn't want the work. So I think that's what it comes down to now, is like you need to be appreciated for what you're doing. And I love that bit that no means next opportunity, because
Thank
exactly
you.
right. If you say yes to everything and then the perfect opportunity comes in, you haven't got the time to do it. What do you do? You know, and what the other thing about it as well, I'm very much into like things just happen that way. If you have that mindset, naturally things work out for you. So if you said no to something because you're looking for a particular thing that you want to go into, suddenly, because you're saying no to that because you're waiting for the next opportunity, it's not negative saying no, you're waiting for that next opportunity, then almost magically things happen. It's
Yes,
weird.
exactly.
It's
Exactly.
so weird.
And that's how I think, Zenler happened to me. It was almost magical. I was just, I have always shared this at different point in time. It was, I think, 9:30 p.m. for me in the night. I was just sitting, scrolling my phone, and the post just came through all of a sudden. I didn't even know where that came from. I looked at it and I just sent in what I had to just in 2 hours, around 11:30 to 12:30. And then it happened. And I thought, where did this come from? So that is, I think, exact thing that you're talking about. And I love the approach, the way you said that the power always has to be with us. When we give them the power, we've almost lost control on our confidence. This is also a direct relation to how we feel about ourselves and our confidence. If we know somebody else is controlling the work we are doing, the appreciation and the validation comes from someone else, the confidence comes from someone else, the power is always there, not with us. So I think that is also a beautiful thing that you shared in different examples while you were sharing about the companies you work with.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of that. I know exactly what you mean. I mean, I see, and you see it around you all the time. Like, you just check out Fiverr. On there, there's so many people doing like WordPress designs and things like that, and you're looking at the prices and they're all down. Never go for the low rate, because you think these people are just learning. And if you pay little, then you kind of, not always, because you do get people that are learning and they're charging small amount because they're doing what you're doing, Manmeet, and they're building their knowledge.
Yeah,
But they are
yeah.
building their knowledge. When you're actually, if you're having a site done professionally, then you want that person to be fully fledged, and that's the thing with Fiverr. You don't know, sometimes you don't know whether that person's really experienced, but you can pretty much judge on the amount you're paying them. Because like, if it's small amount of money, then it's going to be, and where in the world they're from as well, they're going to charge less because it's cheaper there or it's more expensive there. So those things as well are, and that's something that I see a lot. It's like people, and I know people that try and knock people down all the time on prices, and I'm like, oh, really? It's so you're not paying them much at all anyway, and you're knocking them down. That's just horrendous.
I know, I can feel it.
Yeah, like, we've all been there. We've all gone through that thing where the client, the classic case is, you have to, like, everything you're doing, especially if you're doing websites and they're complex websites, then you have to be really careful, because it's like, you don't know what's behind there. They'll say, oh, it's only a 10-page site. But then they turn around and say, I want 100 PDFs in there, all linked through to the articles. And you're like, hold on, you said it's 10 pages. Now it's 100 pages. I've had this. I had a guy that was like, oh yeah, I've got a few products. So a few products. All right, let's say a few products. Let's say 10. I was like, a few products would be like 5, but I say 10. And then I started the job and he said, yeah, right. And he kept sending me all these product pictures and stuff. And it was like 250 products. And I was like, no, I'll tell you. So I tell you what I do. I did the first 5 and I did a video on how to do it. And I said, you do the rest. There you go. He wanted me to do it as part of the price. And I was like, no chance, absolutely. Yeah, it's that pushing, and you have to turn around and say, hold on, this is not what, and this is why it's really important that when you're getting a brief from a client, hopefully you get a written brief from a client, you send the form back and you lay out exactly what your commitment to for that job. And outside, it's like a contract. Outside of that contract, it doesn't exist. You then have to apply for more stuff to be added to that, to be included. But outside of that contract, it's not, that's it. That's all I'm doing. So that's another thing as well that lots of newbies do when they come into doing any kind of work, whether it be Photoshop work and digital retouching, any of this sort of stuff. They don't write down what they're required to do. And you need to do that if you're working for anyone else. I know that most of us are course creators on here, but I know a lot of you have other jobs, so this might help you with that kind of thing as well. But definitely if you're doing so, and that goes for some of the course creators that are doing stuff in Zenler as well. If you're doing stuff, one of the Zenler instructors creating their site for them, just lay out the boundaries of where the work that you'll do. Otherwise, people will stretch and stretch and stretch and expect you to do it for the same money. And you can't do that,
Exactly. And I think the way you said whatever is in black and white is considered to be as proof. Everything else you can't say, oh, that day on call you said this, or that day on call you said this. That will not be considered. If you have an email, if you have a contract, you can show them that, this is what was discussed. So absolutely, that is the way to go.
Yeah. And then, of course, you've got your good clients that you've had for years and years, and they're quite happy. You can turn around to them and say, look, this is going to cost more because I'm going to spend a bit more time on it. I need to do a better job. And I've overrun the hours that I'm going to work for you. I need to extend it by 10, 20 hours, and they'll be absolutely fine. And they're your good clients, and you don't need written things for them because that you know them and that history, that engagement that you've got with them. The same as you've got with your students, guys, you've got your student coming, those people, those top fans that you can put a new course out and they're going to buy it like that. And they're going to talk about you as well. So there is a balance to be found, but that word no is just so important, and for your health as well.
Exactly. I think people should start accepting it as a positive word, because I do feel that, it is somewhere to do with how we are taught since the very starting. Because whenever in our childhood, when we are growing up, no matter which country, which state, which part of the world, anybody is, it's a concept that your parents will tell you that, don't say no, it doesn't look good. Or don't do this, it doesn't look good. So, and when we want to buy something, I heard it somewhere. When we want to buy something, if I would say that, I want to buy this, I want to do that as a child. So the parents would say no immediately. They wouldn't explain it that why it is not supposed to be done. So when I say that you say no to a client, you don't say to them, no, I can't do this. You tell them, I'm a bit preoccupied with my task already, and right now my hands are full. So you're giving them a reason that why you can't do it, or whatever you share with them. So that's a reason and logic you're giving right there. But when you ask something from your parents, what you hear is, no, we can't get you this. So you also accept that, okay, this is I am deprived or rejected or something. So two thoughts together. You don't get something and then you are told that if you don't do it, it won't look good. So no kind of becomes a negative word, and you grow up with it, and it becomes a permanent definition in your mind that no means rejection or denial. And if I do this to my clients, I will be a bad person. My business will not grow. But in reality, it's vice versa. It's the otherwise actually. So it's a lot to do with where we started from.
Yeah, I think, it's like the classic one where, you're like you were saying, your parents like asking you to dance. You might have a lot of people, dance, mammy, dance.
That actually didn't happen with me, but I do know that a lot of households, when you go to a relative's house, it's in India, in Hindi, you would say, acha dance karke dikhao. So that does happen.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And it's like sitting down at the table and, you've got to eat. I don't know if you have sprouts in India. Do you have sprouts?
Yes, we do.
Oh, you do it right, yeah. Eat your sprouts. My brother hated sprouts. I loved sprouts, to be honest, but he just wouldn't eat them, and she basically make him sit at the table till he'd eaten them all, which wasn't good, because now he's grown up, he just will not eat them. So it's that kind of false thing. And on the other side of it that you were picking up on there was like children, if you explain, just like when we grow up, if everything's explained to you why that's not good for you, why you don't need to do it, because children, sometimes we just say no, but if you give them the explanation, then they understand, and then it's easier for them to mentally work it out. So when they grow up, they then give an explanation as to why no's and these things. So is everything that we do is basically from how we were brought up as children.
Yes, exactly.
It's
Definitely.
hardwired, it's hardwired into us. And as you get older, you can see those things coming about. I mean, all you guys watching, if you think of what you're doing and, the way that you've been perceived and these sort of things, if you look back in your past, you probably find there's things that have caused that. And knowing about it, actually knowing that there's a problem, is the way that you can get a solution to it, either through talking to someone else or through therapy and those sort of things. Liz picks up on these things all the time because it's her thing. But yeah, I think it's really important, that word no. Next opportunity. It's not a negative. It's like a next opportunity. Yeah, it's good.
Thank you so much. I think I did justice to the topic, did I?
What's that?
I said, I think I did justice to the topic, did I?
Oh, yes. Yeah, definitely. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of feedback from that because it's a big one. It is a big subject. I had Kat came in and said, such good to a reminder. She was saying about joining Zenler's channels. I don't always follow the good advice, but when I do, it seems better for my business. So things like that, saying no to stuff, it's going to help. It's going to help you. So a little bit of like what me and Manmeet have gone through, but everybody's gone through the same thing at some time in their career, But this isn't just a subject for courses or for business. This is a subject for life.
Exactly.
You're always put in situations by people asking you for something or do something, and it's not a bad word to say no. I'm not going to do that because that's not going to be good for me. You try and help people out, and also the value of things as well. It's like I remember I used to give a lot of myself for free, and what happens is what you're doing, like in town, for instance, I used to help people like, do you want me to do a website for you to start your business off? Some people, oh, that's a good idea. And then they wouldn't get back to me. And then I was like, well, okay. And then they get back to me like 3 or 4 months later and they'd ask me, and that wasn't a good opportunity then to do it. And I was like, no, I can't. And I was going to do this stuff for free. And I would have bitten my arm off if I had a website designer come up to me, oh, I'll set your site up for you. I'd be biting their arm off. But because you said you do it for free, there was no value in it. It was almost like that person had offered that thing for free because they could do it like that, where it would have taken a lot of my time to do it. So now I no longer do that. I just don't offer those things for free. Of course, I'll help people out to be a good person, and I'll help people out if they're doing something for charity or a good cause. But I won't just offer myself out, give part of myself and not expect anything back, because what will happen is that people just use you then, and you'll be used, and you've got to be careful of that because they won't know. They'll be like, well, he offered for free, so it doesn't matter, does it? But they don't realize.
Yeah, I think what you just said, the value out of the entire offer goes down because they feel, okay, it's for free. They never realize the importance of it because, in general, it is said that if you're paying for something, that there's a part of your pocket that has gone out. So the pressure of that amount, no matter how much it is. So when you say free, the person doesn't realize that something has gone out of my pocket or I have given in something. It's just on the receiving end. So they just forget about the value because it's just the receiving end. They are getting everything without doing anything for that matter. So they never realize that what is the value that it holds that's coming to you. And whether, at that moment, they should feel it's priceless. There cannot be a tag on that, but they forget the value because it's just on the receiving end. They're like, okay, I will get back to you when I have the time.
I know, it's just like if you go into a shop and you buy something for maybe £1 and you'll put it on your shelf, and if you knock it over and you break it, you won't care. If you go out and buy the same thing for £1,000, you won't be happy when it's broken, but it can be the same thing. So it's like that. It's that kind of thing that happens. And yeah, it's like our courses. There is a thing that's saying if we actually sold our challenges, our boot camps, all our training tutorial, maybe do it as an extra bundle like some of the other platforms do, X amount a month, and you can be part of the tutorials.newzenler.com site, then what would happen with that, because people are paying for it, there will be a lot more engagement. People wouldn't just book for a live and then not turn up. You know, that would happen because people are looking at it. We know our stuff is worth thousands, the courses that we're producing. We're all professionals. We're all selling this stuff, you know, and people are not turning up for it. And I'm kind of shocked, because it's like, if I say that I'm going to go to something, I go to something because I want to learn it. It doesn't matter if it's free or not. But I understand where people get this thing from, like, oh, it's free, so I can turn up for that at any time. You know, when we want people to be live. And I know that's why, like Kevin, sometimes like he won't put the replays up, because like, no, I want people live. If they're not there, I'm not going to do a replay for them. They need to commit and spend the time and take that onus on themselves. But it's the whole thing around this free thing that's things. It's not, we could easily sell all of the stuff that we do on the tutorial site for thousands.
Yes.
And when we would get people coming in there, but people are like, it's free, so I'll book the session and won't turn up for it. I don't know.
And a lot of time, Kevin also puts under his emails that if it's free, so don't consider that it's not value. I've seen a lot of emails that he puts through. I think we could do one more presentation on the power of free.
I think, yeah, I mean, there's good things. I mean, obviously free things like for lead magnets and these sort of things are really good, or people's getting a special offer. You do tend to get more engagement with some of the free courses if you say, well, there's a competition at the end of it. And then people, oh, competition. Okay, so I don't really care about the subject you're covering. I just want the competition at the end. This is all just like psychological. Like, oh, you can get a t-shirt at the end of it. Okay, I'll do the course. You know, it's like, you should be doing.
I agree.
You want to learn. I mean, the stuff we're putting out for you is stuff that you need to learn to be professional course creators and make more sales. That's the whole reason. Also, like a day with Zenler, we have top tips coming in from the whole team, and you know, these are priceless for you. You know, it's worth attending or watching them. I know if I was new to the platform, I'd be watching all the stuff that comes out, and you do get it. You do get the people that are in every single live that we do, and they attend every single one, you know, but I can name those people on my hands.
Yes, I think I have a little experience. I mean, of course, as compared to you, I have a little experience in the 6 months with Zenler, but even I have a few people on my hand that I see in all of my lives and whatever I am doing. So yes, I absolutely agree to you on that.
Yeah, and also like for the group, you know, you've got you've got the top contributors that are actually helping people out all the time for nothing. You know, these are our people that are helping, and they help the community out immensely. They don't usually on the challenges, because they are kind of like, they do know the platform, so they don't really need to come into the challenges. But then it's so funny when you're running all these challenges, because you'll get a few people turn up and they'll be there for everything for about 3 to 6 months. Then they disappear because they've learned it all. And then you get another little batch of fans that come in and they're there for every single thing, and then they disappear, and then a new batch comes on. And then you've got all the little people that come in and then they drop off, and they come back in, they drop off. And it's interesting seeing the movement on it, you know, the way these people are coming in and out of things. I mean, it's lovely. It's good that we do get a lot of engagement, but I think there would be even more if we charged. So it's just something to bear in mind, that we could charge for this stuff, but we don't at Zenler. You know, brilliant, Manmeet. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It was my pleasure.
That was super. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you later, Manmeet. Lovely. So, fabulous one there from Manmeet. It brings up a lot of interesting subjects we'll be talking about at the end there, how people have, you know, about the value of things. So Hanale has put, Hanale, thanks, Team Z, always valuable advice. Yeah, so he's been in lives. And I've created courses since 2013, and people who say, can you create a course about X will not buy a course once you create it, it's so important to create around focus for your ideal client. Yeah, exactly. I mean, what we tend to do is like today when Kevin was on, like I just say, like, would people like a course on this, and or a challenge on this, you know, and then we just wait for the reaction. If there's a lot of reaction, then Kevin will run that as a challenge. You might have noticed the post in the Facebook group going out about asking you if you wanted a challenge. I want to do a live challenge into the group, but I'll do it as events, so you can go in there, and then I'll also give you replays as well, so you can go into a course. So I want to do it live streamed into the group so everyone got access on it. I asked people if they wanted a course on leveling up. So just being a bit more professional with what you're doing. So you might be happy with the quality of your video and the site as you have it at the moment, but it's just an opportunity for you to look at how you could do things slightly differently to give it a much more of a professional look to your presentations, or your site, or color, you know, your branding of your site and those sort of things. So I asked that question, and I said, if I get 200 likes, then I would do it, you know. So we ask for that feedback, so we know the important, which actually backs up exactly what I think it's Jidda said on the group there. So hello, Zen batch, David. Yeah, so thank you, team. So Kat is off to work now. She's been watching this morning. So great to have you guys coming in now. I know a lot of people will watch this on the replay. Remember that when Kevin was on, they asked about that challenge as well. And I think off the back of that thing that saying no that Manmeet was running, maybe that's something that we could incorporate and go a little bit on how you can do things to help you, because, you know, like at Zenler, we're not just showing you how to use the platform. We've got loads of videos and training on that already, but we're trying to now push it towards, right, okay, so you've got your courses, you've done your site, how do you market it? How do you get those sales coming in? Because as we said, like Zenler is marketing centric, so the whole of the platform has been built around these marketing tools. And that's great. You know, that's a first. That's a really good thing that Zenler are doing, and they're building out and giving you all the tools you need without any other subscriptions. But the fact remains, if you haven't got any students buying your courses, then all of those things don't matter. You know, you need money coming in on your memberships and these things. This is why this year we're now pushing towards the live things. We're doing our first live impact summit, and we're trying to push things towards, right, how can you market? And this is why you're going to see Kevin, like lots of the team coming there, Alice, talking about the marketing aspect, like what you need to do but trying not to overwhelm you. So if you're new to this, you can take it very slowly. We have got the marketing course, the basic marketing course on tutorials.newzenler. If you are at the stage where you need to market and you don't know anything about this, you might be at the stage where you're thinking of actually employing a marketer to do that for you, which is actually fine. But I would suggest that you go through that course, even if you don't intend to market yourself, because it will give you the terminology and the language to talk at a level with your marketing strategist. So what does this mean to you? Now, you know, I don't want to class this across every marketer, but there are a lot of bad ones out there. And if you can talk on their level, it means that you're not being conned out of money. Okay. So need to get to there. You need to get to there. What you will find with a lot of marketers, they won't give any guarantees. And obviously, because they don't know how many people are going to sign up. So it's very hard to give a guarantee, but you want to be choosing the right strategist, marketer strategist, if you're going to go to them, that they're going to get you the results. So being able to speak on their language is a good thing. So take the basic marketing course, even if you're not going to do it. If you're going to do it, even better, because you can put those things in practice, and then we can build on that. We also have a YouTube challenge as well, which also tells you about YouTube marketing. So you guys that are really into videos, producing video screen shares like I do, this will be really beneficial for your YouTube channel. Obviously, off the back of a lot of what Kevin has already said as well on the 10 o'clock slot when he was on. So that brings us nicely to about 12 o'clock. Great session in the morning. We're going to move on to the afternoon session, which starts in 3 hours' time. And we have a very special guest. He is our CEO, Mr. Zen himself, Rakesh, is going to be in, and he's going to be talking about trends with online course creators. So it's going to be a really good one. He's going to blast through that in half an hour. And then after that, you've got me. I've got some pre-recorded content that I'm going to put up for you. It's done specially for a day with Zenler. And this is all about time saving and tips and hacks with your site. So I feature a lot on how you can create things like backgrounds, like cutouts for yourself to put into the page, some speed saving tips in there, what you should be looking at doing with your emails, certain things you should be doing with your site. And I bet you some of these things you'll be like, even if you've got a site up for like the last 6 months, I guarantee that some of these things in here you haven't done, and you'll want to do them. So in the afternoon, you can watch it on the replay as well, but it's going to be like hacks and tricks. And I've got 2 sessions. I've got part 1, part 2. They're about 48, 50 minutes each to watch them. And then we'll just be tidying up at the end with any other bits or questions that come in. Now, because of the pre-recorded content, and I'll be on from 3:30 this afternoon with this content, I'll also be showing you a little presentation that Alice did with some of the speakers for the summit that we've got coming up. I'll be sharing a link in there. I'll be doing my EdCo slot as well. So we've got an EdCo slot coming up. So we've got a ton of things going on, but lots of it is pre-recorded. So what it means is I sit by the computer, the pre-recording goes, you put any questions in the chat and I'll answer them straight away. So it's like having 2 people at the same time. So you're going to get all that this afternoon at 3 o'clock. That wraps up the morning session because it's hit 12 o'clock now. Thanks, guys, for attending the morning session, and hopefully I'll see you in the afternoon. If not, make sure you catch up on the replay, but I'll see you very soon.